What's up, y'all? I'm Deeg. This is Deeg Chats. I'm here today talking with my friend AuroraPeachy. What's up, Aurora? Peachy? What should I call you?
Hi.
Aurora? Peachy? What's best for short?
You can call me either one, but most people call me Peachy.
How about AP?
AP actually works too. That too.
Okay. We're gonna go with Peachy though. We're gonna go with Peachy. So, how are you today? How's it going?
Oh my gosh, it has been a very busy couple of days, but I am doing great.
Yeah?
Great.
Any particular reason?
Reasons to yet be announced.
Oh, that's very exciting.
Some big life changes that I can't reveal quite yet.
Okay. Well, everyone will have to stay tuned for that. But meantime, we have lots of fun stuff to talk about. Peachy, I've of course known about you and your work forever. I'm a long-time Guild Wars 2 player, even though I'm kind of new to the creator scene. And the thing about you that I so love is that you have a way of funneling and reflecting enthusiasm and appreciation in a way that I don't really see anywhere else. And I think in a creator landscape that can, at sometimes, let's say, tilt towards irony and frustration, what you do seems very unique to me.
I have never heard anyone put it that eloquently. Thank you. It's a huge compliment.
Where does that come from?
Oh my gosh. I think it just comes from I have literally always my entire life been a geek and been passionate about video games, anime. I was playing video games on my dad's computer that ran on DOS ever since I knew how to use a keyboard.
What a nerd. I love it.
Bless him for that. Bless him for introducing me to the crazy world of, technology and gaming.
Yeah.
That led me to today.
Is your dad a big gamer still?
Not really still. He really loved strategy games, was kind of his bread and butter. He liked Civilization, any of the like tycoon games, Railroad Tycoon.
Sure. Sim type games.
And that's and like super early days, like Civ 1. I would watch him play that. And they were, at the time when I was little, that was a little above my head. But I would watch him play it. And that's actually, despite me being a very, very big into MMOs, RPGs in general, I would say my favorite gaming genre is strategy. Because my brain loves strategy. So
Interesting. I have found myself admiring strategy games from a distance my whole life. I can remember vividly. So I, like you, got exposed to games by my dad. Me and my brother, a few years apart, sat down in his office, which is the only place where a computer existed at the age we were at. Like, this would have been early 90s. And we played Myst on CD-ROM, which was mind-blowing at the time. And he introduced us to Wolfenstein 3D, and that's how I got into shooters and things like that. But the thing that my brother ended up playing that I tried to like, but I didn't get much into, was Age of Empires. And
oh my god, yes.
Yeah?
Oh my gosh, yes. I grew up Age of Empires 1. I played a ton until 2 came out, and then of course 2 is like the penultimate. The ultimate Age of Empires.
That's what everyone thinks of. Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. When you think Age of Empires, you're thinking of Age of Empires 2. I wish I had a tally of how many hours over my lifetime I've played Age of Empires 2. I played that game endlessly.
The thing that always stuck out about that game, as stupid as it sounds, is all the flavorful voice lines. Like,
right?
It was just like there's something so charming about it.
They're so memorable, and you never got tired of them.
Yeah. So strategy games. What kind of strategy games are you into these days?
Oh my goodness. There's nothing that I play like regularly. I go in like spurts.
Uh-huh.
And I love any kind of RTS like Age of Empires. One
Uh-huh.
of my favorites, even though I don't play it now, is Rise of Nations. Would highly
Mm.
recommend if you haven't played that. Anybody
I've
who
heard good
loves
things.
Age of Empires type games. There's a great RTS coming out by an indie developer called Timberborn, and
I've
it's
seen this. What's it
an Age of
about?
Empires-esque
Uh-huh.
with beavers, and you're building your little beaver colony. And what's really unique about it, and this is just in like beta right now. There's a free
Uh-huh.
demo actually that you can play. I'm like plugging their game right now. Hashtag not sponsored.
There it
Just
goes.
really, really want to play your game.
Uh,
Um, but what's unique about it that I like is since they're beavers and they build dams, right, to
uh-huh.
control the water level, you'll have like the wet seasons and the dry seasons, so the
Mm.
water level will like raise or lower. So
Oh,
you have to
interesting.
build your city on different levels of terrain and build your
Mhm.
dams in order to manage the water around your city, which is super
The
cool.
world's first beaver simulator.
Right?
Wow.
Right? They all have names and like they have new like you can't just make new beavers, you have to wait until they breed and like make new beavers and then the beavers grow up and then the beavers die of old age when they get old. It's great. It's
Oh my
great.
God.
And it's just in beta and like they're developing it very actively and making improvements and listening to the feedback very
Uh-huh.
well and
Uh-huh.
I can't wait for this game.
You know, just when you think that the world of games and like even like movies and TV is just overcome with sequelitis, right? Everyone wants to
Mhm.
just print out the successful IPs and make new versions of it. You see something like that, and it's like, all right, yep, the spark is still here. Like this is still real. That feels good. That feels good. Timberborn. I have seen ads for it. I did not know what I was looking at, but now I'm curious. So that sounds
Mhm.
that sounds delightful.
Highly recommend.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so on your bio, Peachy, you you call yourself in four different words: fangirl, creator, gamer, collector. Right? I've seen all these parts of you in your content, but which part of you do you think is the most core, most important, most manifest? Which word? Which of those words is most
Mm.
central to you?
Mm. Oh gosh. I mean, that's tough because all of them like define me. But
Uh huh.
I think because and the reason I put it first, I think fangirl because
Yeah.
everything I do stems from that.
Uh huh.
Stems from the fact that I am just a giant geek and a giant fangirl, and I have extreme passion for the characters and series and things that I'm
Mm-hmm.
into. And so,
Mm-hmm.
creation, of course, that's why I create. That's what inspires me to create. It
Right.
always has, is the
Yeah.
stuff I'm passionate about. Gaming. I'm just passionate about gaming, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the characters I fall in love with come from gaming or anime. And then, what was the other one? What am I?
Fangirl, creator,
Colle
gamer, collector.
collecting, of
Yeah, yeah,
course, and
yeah.
then I am, incentivized and, passionate about buying all my little favorite characters to look at and put
Uh-huh,
on my shelf.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Which is an incredible looking shelf it is. So break it down for us. What are we seeing
Oh, thank
roughly?
you. Oh my gosh, and you're only seeing half of it,
Okay,
actually.
okay.
Um, but, I started collecting when I've always kind of been a collector of I like sets of things.
Uh-huh,
I just have a fascination with like a collection of like when I was little and I didn't have like like a show or something to collect
uh-huh,
from.
uh-huh.
I guess I collected Barbies, you could say, when
Okay,
I was really
okay.
little, right? I was
Sure,
asking
sure.
for Barbies for
Yeah.
Christmas, when I was real little. But like I would collect like rocks or pencils
Hmm.
or stickers or like I liked these sets of things. It
Hmm.
just made me happy. Ever since I was little, I would have a little bin. Like
Hmm.
when I would go to school and you would do good on your test and the teacher would give you a shiny sparkly pencil,
Uh-huh.
right? And all the kids would go and sharpen it and use it, right? I would
Uh-huh.
save it, not use it. I would bring it home and put it in a little plastic bin that I had with like 100 other pencils that I had gotten from school and various places. If I went to like a store and I saw a
Okay,
sparkly
okay,
pencil, I would buy a little sparkly pencil and add it to the collection.
okay.
And it just made me happy. So now that's translated into this.
Uh-huh. Okay. So, yeah, let me think about this for a second. One of the things that I've been accused of is not having enough stuff. Like that whole
Accused?
instinct that you just well, I mean, I'm putting it dramatically. We are streaming. We must be dramatic about these things. Um, so uh, before we started the stream, I was actually just complimenting you on your on the setup you have there, and I was reflecting on the fact that I have like a single piece of gaming merchandise that I stumbled into, and I showed it to you before the stream. It's this lovely lady who's
Aw,
comes to us
so
from
cute.
the Icebird Saga announcement back in 2019 at the Mort Theater. But it came like a pet that you rescue. It came to me rather than I to it, because this instinct to collect is something that I've never had. So I see what you have, and I feel fascinated by this instinct, and I want to get to know it better. Can What can you tell me about collecting? So you collect the pencil, right? The pencil that all the other kids sharpen. Probably I would sharpen, I'm guessing, but you don't sharpen it. You keep it in a nice state. You bring it home with you. You put it with other like things, and you find a set for it, or you find a place for it to be. You organize it.
Yep.
Do you then go back and admire it later when you see it? What are you feeling when you're taking in your collection?
Wow. Wow. I think that uh go with like keeping it like pristine and
Uh-huh.
nice, and
Uh-huh.
I think that goes back to my like I have a little sister, and so we grew
Mm,
up together, and so
okay.
like Christmas and stuff, we would all we would both get toys, and we were very, like I said, very into Barbies.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she had a habit. She used her toys. She played with her toys. So she would open the Barbie and she would take down its hair and she would brush the hair and put it in
Uh-huh.
different styles and put different clothes on it, and she would like play with her toys.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know why, but I just always had the instinct of look at this pretty box that it comes in. It
Mm.
comes in, it's tied up in there, with 18 twisty ties.
Mhm.
And the hair is in this style, this really tight style that you could never replicate,
Right.
except for the
Right.
machine that they
Mhm.
make it on. So I've just always had, I don't know why, but I've had this instinct to preserve it. It's beautiful, it's pretty like that. And yeah, I
Mhm.
took them out and I played with them and stuff, but I had more of the instinct to like, let's not get it dirty, let's not take down the
Yeah.
hair, let's keep the hair looking nice. And I'm not sure why I had that instinct
Mhm.
in particular, but then that translated into like keeping the pencils nice. I even had a sticker collection, and I didn't use the stickers. I kept
Mhm.
them on the sheet because once you
Mhm.
take them off, they're used, right? I wanted to
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
them pristine and on the
Okay.
sheet. So my sticker collection was just a pile of sticker sheets,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
And I think when I go, and I would going to your question
Uh-huh.
specifically, is I would go and I would admire them, especially
Mhm.
whenever I add something new. When
Mhm.
I add a new pencil to the collection, I would kind of take them all out and I would just look at them. And I think one of my favorite parts is that each piece has a story
Oh,
of some kind.
okay.
There's so many pieces behind me that I could tell you the story of winning an eBay auction at the last second.
Okay.
Or this is so rare, I was looking for it for 5 years and I finally found it, and that
Uh-huh.
excitement of finally finding it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's one of my favorite things is they all have a story, and it might go back to the pencils where I got this one from the principal, and this one, the principal called me down because he heard that I was a good student, and I went in his office and saw and got to see he loved Mickey Mouse. And so that
Mhm.
brings back
Mhm.
all the memories of sitting in the office and seeing the Mickey Mouse and having him tell me I was a good student, and it
Mhm.
brings back those memories from that one pencil. And so
Uh,
sifting through and I can literally remember putting my fingers in and like feeling all of the pencils, and I think
uh-huh.
to me it was a lot of like memories of
Mhm.
where I got them.
I love that. That is so interesting. I feel like just naturally we are so we so easily remember things that are difficult or negative, right?
Mhm.
You know, you can say it's part of some like survival instinct, and that may be true, but it doesn't change the reality. We tend to remember these negative things, and when one does what you're doing, um, and what I've done it a handful of times, you kind of get the chance to almost like short circuit that effect, to give yourself an excuse to remember something good, something about yourself that helps reinforce your identity, that helps you, um, because identity is a perilous thing, right? Our ability to understand ourselves and to conduct ourselves in the crazy world we live in. I I guess I'm gonna try to relate to what you're saying, and I have one example I can think of. Will you permit me a moment to explain?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's see if this lands. Um, so back in 2015, I got a job as a data engineer. Um, I was good at the job. I could do the job. No big deal. I was at a startup. It was kind of exciting. Um, Things went sideways with the startup, and I was kind of uh, the work that I needed to do there kind of went away for a while, but I was still working there. It was a very confusing time. And during that time, I decided to enroll in a what they called a leadership course. It's called Foundations for Success, and it ended up being like a speech making course of some sort. And I kind of felt like the odd man out at the company at that time. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing there. I didn't understand because there was a big layoff that happened with this reorganization. I survived it. Why? It wasn't really clear to me why. And everyone kind of didn't feel great about layoffs. Layoffs always feel terrible. But I went into this course and I just approached it with an open mind. And I ended up discovering this kind of talent for doing what we're doing here, actually, at that course. And by some crazy stroke of luck and kindness, I was kind of named like the MVP of the course at the end of it. And I have a
Nice.
little uh, one of those silly looking what do you call them, like plaques that stand up on a desk
Right.
over there on my bookshelf. And sometimes it helps me to remember that when I'm choosing how to go through my life. My career has taken different turns since then. It's one of the things that clued me into how do I solve the problem of making my game experiences more enjoyable? Because that's the main reason I started the podcast. Because I still liked games and I still wanted to like them, but I was not getting what I quite needed out of it. And that helped suggest a way to move forward. Do you ever find yourself in a situation where something that you've preserved or conserved in your collection brings back a meaningful lesson for you or a meaningful reminder? Or is it more just like
Mm.
a general sense of contentment?
I'm sure there's some pieces that I'm trying to think of, like, a specific one that I keep for, like, a specific memory.
Okay.
Um, but I can't really off the top of my head. I've never thought about that before.
That's okay.
I
Like
I love it.
I'm weird this way. I'm weird this way.
I love it.
Well, I just like to analyze everything to death. So speaking of,
Yeah.
um,
Real quick, when you mentioned that
yeah.
plaque, instantly I was like, "See, that's something you can look at on your shelf, and that's a memory that
Yes.
you went back to, and how beautiful that is." I
Yes.
love it.
And that has not only been useful in and of itself, but it's been instructive to be like, hey, idiot, don't forget to like save stuff. Don't forget to memorialize your life. Because I would forget. I would think
Mhm.
I'm too like, I'm too good for that. Like I'm too enlightened. I don't need
Mm.
stuff. Like I had this story
Mm.
about myself that I told myself. That turns out to be bullshit, of course. Um, but that's one of the big lessons that I learned. And also when I tune into your content, I now I will see that and it'll be another kind of reminder. And um
Cool.
so I love that. Um
Yeah.
so being the fangirl, being the collector, nerding out. Um you said that this kind of began for you when your father kind of sat you down and showed you his fun strategy games on playing on your DOS PC. How did things go from there? I know you've plotted a course through, of course, Guild Wars 2, streaming, cosplay.
Mhm.
Like, how did you grow as a nerd?
Wow. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, the earliest video game I can remember playing was Fisher Price Bus and Fisher Price Bowling.
Okay.
They were DOS games and they were very simple. You just played them with the arrow keys on the keyboard.
Uh-huh.
One of them was just kind of a bowling game. So you would move your little character across the screen wherever you
Mhm.
wanted to
Mhm.
throw the little bowling pin, and you would throw it. Like that was it.
Okay.
Um, but the bus game, was a lot more complicated for, and I was like 4 years old.
Mhm.
It had a map of streets that you would drive down and pick up kids for school. You would stop in front of their little stops, and
Uh-huh.
they would get on the bus, and then you would drive them to school. But it had 3 different levels, and the first level was you just did that. And the second level, like, it got a little harder. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes the kids weren't at the stop yet, so you had to, like, remember who wasn't there and then go back and pick them up. And then the third level, had obstacles in the road, so you kinda
Oh.
had to mentally remember the roads and take detours. And I think that maybe implanted some strategy into my brain because I
Okay.
had to think critically, and I was doing this at, like, 4 years old.
Nice.
Um, so, like, I think that, like, it enthralled me. I was excited. I wanted to pick up those kids, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And I think my dad just, seeing how much I loved it, he just kept buying me games, right? Of
Mm.
course, as I went older and older, age appropriate games for
Mhm.
as I grew up. I had a fairy tale game. I had a lot of them were educational, but still
Mhm.
super fun, that taught you about music and math and science and reading and all that. And I loved every single one of them. And
Mhm.
art, and a very early, like, art program.
Mm.
And that allowed me to kind of, find what I enjoyed and what I was good at
Mhm.
and what I was drawn to. Um, yeah, and then when I got old enough to, like, I started asking for games, and we begged our parents for a Nintendo.
Uh-huh.
And finally got a Nintendo, and then
Nice.
me and my sister could play it together. I was a Nintendo kid, totally.
Me too. Me
Um,
too.
Nice. I gotta thank we would go to my grandma's house before we had a Super Nintendo was our first console at home. And before that, we would go over our grandma's house,
Mhm.
and she had an Atari.
Oh.
And every time we went over there was all we did was play Atari, me and my
Uh-huh.
sister. We
Uh-huh.
just loved it. And I think it really helped that my sister and I, and she's 4 years younger,
Mhm.
could play the games together.
Right.
And so that kept us interested. I'm sorry for the puppy barking.
Oh, I hope they're okay.
She's just barking at dogs walking down the street.
I see. Well,
How
but it's a very
dare
important
they?
job to do, you know?
It
At
is. They
at least the
guard the
house is
house.
defended, you know? I'm comforted to hear
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. But so yeah, I think it just went from there. My dad kept buying his games. We kept asking for games because we
Mhm.
played them together and we loved them. Every Christmas, every birthday, we were asking for a game or a console or the next console.
Mhm.
Um, And when I was, we also grew up watching, of course, Saturday morning cartoons.
Mhm.
Eventually, my parents got cable, so we had Nickelodeon, and so we were Nickelodeon kids. Watched all the cartoons on
Mhm.
there. So gaming has been rooted ever since I was old enough to use a keyboard.
Got it.
Anime came about when I was 13,
Okay.
and that was Sailor Moon.
Okay.
When I randomly saw it on TV
Mhm.
when I was flipping channels before school,
Mhm.
and something about these brightly colored characters with bright hair flying around the screen doing magical attacks. I was something I just went my brain went, "Wow." Like, I need more of this
Uh-huh.
desperately.
All
So
right.
I what?
Yeah, I'm down with it. Let's I Sailor
So
Moon is something I don't know anything about, so What's the Sailor Moon formula?
It's your very typical magical girl series. Monster
right.
of the day, magical girl, an ordinary girl gets superpowers, transforms into a magical girl, has a pretty attack, and
What's
fights
not
the
to
monster of
like?
the day. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just I was instantly hooked. And I said I have to get more of this, but it was on while I was at school.
Ah.
So I asked my dad, how do I record this? So he taught me how to set the VCR, time it, and record it on a VHS tape so I could watch it when I get home from school. And that started teaching me about video and editing and, just recording things. And by recording them, watching them back, I would transfer episodes. Like I would take a bunch of episodes and like combine them into one tape. I was making very early music video, like not music videos, but like montages of my favorite scenes on a VHS tape. And then my dad, who is just interested in technology and computers and software, and then he's interested in video creation as well, just naturally. And he eventually got very early, before this was popular, he got a linear video editor like Vegas or Premiere. It wasn't those brands, but it was a very early version of that. And that was just like life changing because you could do transitions, and you could reposition everything, and it just blew my mind. And using my inspiration for Sailor Moon, and just I loved it so completely, so deeply, so much that I couldn't contain it, and it spawned creation. I had to draw it, I had to write it, I had to make videos, I had to do anything I possibly could to just get all of this passion out of my head for Sailor Moon. So I started doing all those things, and I started learning how to non-linear video edit so that I could make music videos. I was like, I could just put this to music. Oh my God. Like it just blew my mind what I could do with the technology of the time. And remember, this is like, in the late 90s.
Yeah.
So this is all very early in all of that. And at the same time, at the same year that I discovered Sailor Moon, I also, and I'm dating myself, I also got the internet when I was 13 years old. Was the first time my parents got AOL. And that, of course, I can say that my first internet search ever was Sailor Moon.
Of course.
Because I was just like, what do you mean I can search for information on anything I want? Sailor Moon, of course. And it just, there was already people online sharing clips of the Japanese version. I didn't even know it was Japanese. I didn't know what anime was. So I got to, what is anime? Let me search anime, And it just was an explosion of all these things converging and happening in my life at the right time. When my passion for this was so overloaded in my little 13-year-old brain. And here we are today, almost 25 years later.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think for me, my first internet search must have been baseball related. Because I was a big baseball nerd at that same age that you're describing. I would watch every single. I grew up near New York City, so I would watch every single Yankees game. I knew every player's in the starting lineup's batting average. Total nerd.
Nice.
That was my thing at the time. Yeah, those days were very different, huh? You
had a lot more time to fully indulge.
Right. I mean, just being that age, absolutely. I guess I was reflecting more on just the state of the technology and the way people engage with it. And you doing that at that age made you it made you part of a very small group of people who had computers at home, had internet at home, had a parent who was technically sophisticated and can help you with this stuff. That's a very narrow funnel as it goes down. I was in a sort of similar situation. My dad was a tax accountant and a little bit of a nerd, and he needed to have a computer for work, and so one thing follows another.
Yep.
And but I think sometimes about like what the internet was like back then, before like the major forces of social media, before these really powerful tools we have now to connect, like what we're doing here right now.
Which bless the internet for these tools and this technology.
Oh yes,
This ability to connect.
Thank all the extremely talented and creative people who made this possible. Definitely. That's a big topic I could spend a lot of time on, but I won't bore everyone. I won't bore everyone. I guess I'm just having a moment where I'm allowing myself to be struck, because I don't get to talk to a lot of people who were engaging with technology in that way at that time and had a similar experience to me. Like I remember first discovering file sharing, like before Kazaa, back with the original Napster. I remember trying to get emulators to work for Nintendo games, and that blowing my mind the first time I learned about it, because I grew up with Nintendo like you. And I remember literally punching a hole in the wall next to the family PC after the emulator I was trying to get couldn't work, and I got so frustrated with it.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Is that hole still there?
No, I did a great job patching it up. No,
all right, well done.
major parenting win for my dad. He looked at me and he said, "As long as you make it look like it would look before you hit it, we're fine. Just fix it." And nice. I got a little help, but I did manage to repair it. So nice. I kind of wish. See, that's one of those little totems. I wish I'd taken a picture of that. Going back to the earlier conversation, I call him. I think it was a totem, a collectible.
I like that.
Yeah,
I did that when I moved out of my parents' house, and I had a lot of little ceramics that I had like painted at camp. But I was like, I don't need these. Like they don't really serve a function, but they're memories. They're precious memories. So I took a picture of them. And then I didn't feel the need to save the actual thing, which just takes up space and sits in a box.
And they're fragile,
somewhere.
And you don't. Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right. So here's the picture, and I have the memory.
Here's a question for you, then. Tangent. What do you do with things like birthday cards?
That's so tough.
I think no one's got a solution for this. Everyone I've asked.
No one does. There's no proper like right or wrong for this. I will I will keep them if someone has written, like if someone just writes happy birthday and signs their name, I will probably toss that, like not after I'll keep it for a little bit, but then I'll toss it.
All right.
But if someone like writes a big message in there, I keep it. And then I keep them all. I have a box, but when that box gets full and I can't fit anything else in there, I'll go through them all, which again is going back over memories, right? And I will throw out the ones that have like the least amount of messages. I'll keep the most sentimental of the ones that are in there.
So you filter it down whenever the...
I could also take a picture of the ones, that do have nice messages before I throw them away. And again, that's kind of preserving that without having to keep the physical thing.
This is the thing my wife and I are talking about, is going through and do a grand digitization project of all of our memorabilia that can be flattened, at least. That can go through a scanner. We keep saying we're going to do it, and then we keep not doing it. I don't know when it'll happen. But
I have that every day. Oh man, don't we all have that laundry list?
Well, I can't even imagine you, someone who won't even use a pencil because it's so sentimental. How much of a burden it must be to deal with all this stuff.
I don't have those pencils anymore.
I see. I guess that they didn't make the cut, huh? Along with those short birthday cards.
I did eventually put the stickers in a book, and I do have that book.
There it is.
So I still have my sticker collection, but I don't have the pencils. I actually still have some of the rocks. So I do still have some of those.
A rock collection?
Some of those things. The little shiny, like polished rocks. Just a few. Like they're bright colors, and I couldn't I'm like, they don't take up much space. They're pretty, like I couldn't make myself get rid of them yet.
Oh man. I would love to be just like like uh I would love to watch a stream of you going through the process of deciding which of your rocks to keep and just
Oh my gosh.
talking through what's going through your head while you're like, you know, I have 3 rocks, but I can only keep 2. And what this rock means to
Oh,
me is
oh my gosh. Wow.
sorry, a funny thought. But no, I find that I say that in out of respect because like I was saying earlier, um, that let's say good habit of holding on to things that help us remember the good parts is something I've always been very bad at, and so I rather than reinvent all the wheels, why not learn from someone who's already doing it?
Hmm.
That's kind of
It,
why I do these
it,
conversations. Sorry, in the middle level.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it means something different to everyone, and
Uh,
that's okay. Like
yeah.
like you said, like like I have this one Quaggin, and that's the only like memorabilia or collector's
Uh,
item that I have, and but that's what works for you, and that's okay. And that
mm,
one Quaggin, you have a memory of the Icebrood Saga event that you went to.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I always I get sometimes people coming by saying, "Oh my God, your collection is so amazing,"
Mhm,
and saying like, I would either I wish I had a collection like that, or well, I only have a couple things, or I don't have anything for a myriad of reasons. And I always tell people, no matter how many things, it's not about things. How many things you have,
uh-huh,
you can call it a collection. Do you have 2 plushies? That's your collection.
mhm,
That's a collection, and it is no better or worse than mine.
mhm,
And you could have nothing, and it doesn't make you less of a fan. It doesn't make you love that
mhm,
show or that game less.
mhm,
So I always want to iterate to people that this doesn't make me more of a fan. It
mhm,
doesn't make me, my collection's better than yours. None of that. We're all fans in our own way, and we
mhm,
all express our passion for what we're passionate about in the way that works for us and that brings us the most joy. That's when
mhm,
you're doing it right, is when you're expressing your passions in the way that works for you and
mhm,
brings you personally the most joy. And the way you express your passions for things is not going to be the same way that I do. This just
mhm,
happens to be the ways that I express my passions and
mhm.
what brings me joy. My husband doesn't get the collections and
Yeah,
he's like you kind of said, you're like, I'm curious about your thought process, like
uh-huh,
why do you collect and what do you feel when you look at it.
yeah.
My husband says the exact same thing, because he's not a collector. He's not like a fanboy. He
Uh-huh,
doesn't express his admiration for things in the same way. He is
uh-huh,
like, he's a huge Dungeons and Dragons nerd.
okay.
He's a huge World of Tanks gamer.
Uh-huh,
He's
uh-huh,
a he has very strong passions for the nerdy things, for
uh-huh,
geeky things. But he doesn't express it in the same way. And that's okay. He
mhm,
expresses it in different ways than I do. And so he does the same thing. He looks at my collection every time I get a new thing. Oh, that's nice, dear. I'm like, look at it. Oh my God, it's so cool. He's just like, I literally said that once. I got this really rare book, this really rare doujinshi like fan
okay,
comic, and
okay.
I got it for a really good deal, and I was
Ooh.
so excited. I was like, I'm holding this in my hand. This is so rare, and oh my gosh, I can't believe
Yeah.
I'm holding this. And he, and I'm freaking out, and he goes, "It's a book," and I was like, "I know, but it's this book,
Thanks,
right?"
Hobbs.
And what's great is we respect each other's way of
Yeah,
geeking out,
yeah.
and we appreciate each other's way of geeking out. So he
Mhm,
never makes me feel bad for the collection, for spending all the money that I do on the collection,
mhm,
because he knows it brings me joy,
mhm.
and I'm doing it in a healthy way. Which
Mm,
is
okay.
which is important. He's not like, he's like, I try not to touch anything on your collection, but like if I accidentally knock something over, you don't like freak out and get mad. You're just like, oh, is it broken, or let me see, or that's okay, or I just laugh. He's like, you do it in a healthy way.
Hmm.
So he's like, how can I be upset about something that brings you joy?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Damn straight. Now that's the heart of it right there. Where do you draw the line on what doing this in a healthy versus unhealthy way would be?
Well, I've naturally inspired a lot of people to start collecting.
I'll bet. Yeah.
And the number one thing that I tell them is don't go into debt collecting.
Yeah.
Only collect, what you can afford.
Mhm.
Don't rack up your credit card bill to go on a shopping spree, just like anything else. Because I went through a time in my life, years ago, even after I started streaming,
Mhm.
where I was in a lot of debt from school and medical bills and
Mhm.
all this stuff. And I couldn't. There was years where I couldn't collect.
Mhm.
Or I would,
That sounds
there
very
was
sad.
something.
Was that hard?
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was. I just I didn't because I couldn't collect as much.
Mhm.
I didn't absorb myself in every little thing that was coming out. I kind of
Okay.
made it a side thing.
You just took some distance from it.
I took Yeah, exactly. I took
Mhm.
distance from it. And now that I can afford to collect a lot more, I do absorb myself in it more.
Mhm.
Because part of the hobby of it for me personally is the hunt for
Mhm.
the new stuff or the old rare stuff. Trying to find the best for the newer stuff. Something comes out for pre-order, and what's the best site I can get it on for the
Mhm.
cheapest? When will it arrive from this site? What's the best shipping to get? And that it's like a
Mm.
little strategy game that I
Right.
play
Right.
with every new piece. And if it's an older piece, it's hunting it down. Can I find it? Is it in good condition?
Uh-huh.
Is it a good deal for how rare this item is right now? Where am I ordering it from? So I play this little strategy game in the hunt for these things, which is a big part of why I collect, because that process is like a game to me, and it's very exciting
Yeah.
for me, and it makes my brain very happy. And then bonus when it arrives at my door and I'm like, ooh, I love this character, right? I
Yeah.
love this. This is so
Yeah.
pretty. And now I get to find a place for it on my shelf, or
Yeah.
attempt to find a place for it.
And then because you undertook a sort of adventure to get the thing, that thing then will always be a symbol of that adventure. So
Hmm.
you're on both ends of it. You're finding a way that I would say creates meaning for you. That's really cool.
Hmm.
Okay, this is
Yeah.
very helpful to me. Um, because yeah, like I'll admit, I just don't get that. But now that
Hmm.
you're explaining it to me, it's starting to come together. So
Nice.
thank you for
I'm
indulging me
glad.
with that. Um, tell me about a particularly legendary hunt, if you would.
I like to, oh shoot, I have it packed away,
Okay,
unfortunately, because I'm
okay,
moving soon, so it's in a box somewhere, so I can't show you, but it's a big pamphlet. I like, this is my favorite example.
okay.
Back when I was in college, I was insanely into the Sailor Moon musicals. They're live stage performances of Sailor Moon stories
Yeah, sure.
in Japan that happen on
Mm,
stage in Japan. And I was be over the moon obsessed with these
mm-hmm,
musicals. I knew, kind of like you knew all the baseball card stats
mm-hmm,
and everything.
mm-hmm.
I knew all the actors and actresses' names. I knew, like, how many shows they had done. Like, I
Mhm,
knew all the stats and everything. I was super crazy into it. So
mhm,
I started collecting. When you go to see the stage show, you can buy a like pamphlet that has big full color images of all the actors and actresses in their costumes, behind the scenes photos,
mhm.
and I was just like, these books are amazing, kind of like an art book for the show.
That's cool.
And so I wanted to collect them all, but they were rare and hard to get because you could only get them at the show. So
Mhm,
only people who went to the show had them, so they would have to sell them
mhm.
online. And this was before, not before eBay, but like like eBay was a lot newer, and I was kind of like just learning it. And
eBay when it came out was kind of like an almost like a scary place. Like no one knew. Like I remember early eBay times. You hear stories about people getting swindled. You hear stories about people getting taken
sure.
advantage of. I don't know if
Mhm,
I don't know if
mhm.
you shared that recollection too, but That's like
Yeah, I got very lucky. I was very careful and like,
okay.
only people with good reviews and everything, that I ordered from.
Okay.
And you can trust the review system pretty good on eBay. But it's scary because literally anyone can sell anything or claim
Right.
to sell
And you're
anything.
meeting someone in a parking lot somewhere, and it's like,
Right. Yeah, e-commerce was a lot newer.
mm-hmm,
Um, so I was collecting these books,
mm-hmm,
and I was in college, and one of the really rare ones showed up on eBay for a great price.
mm,
And if any of you have, if you go on eBay, you don't just like buy it, because I don't think buy it now even existed back then.
mm-hmm,
So it was an auction, so you have to wait until the auction ends, right?
mm-hmm.
So I just so desperately wanted this book, and I was like, oh my God. I forget if there were other bidders, but I was like, someone else could bid on it, someone could beat me, and I wasn't made of money, so I couldn't just like bid some crazy price, like I'm like, I have to get it for like as cheap as I can. So I found an auction. No, this was before auction sniping. So
Okay.
now you can just use an auction sniper and it'll bid like
Right.
for you at the last minute. So this was before that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in college and going to class all day, and the auction happened to end right between two of my classes. And I had like 10 minutes to already get from one building to another
Huh.
between my classes, and the auction was ending right between those two classes. So, and this was before smartphones, so I couldn't just go on my phone and bid on it.
Right.
So between classes, after my one class, I'm like ready, like the teacher's wrapping up, and I'm like, okay, ready, we good to go, go. And I run out the door, and I run to the computer lab in a building between the buildings with my classes.
Uh-huh.
And I log onto the computer, and I log onto eBay, and I go to the auction page, and I bid on it at the last second, and I'm got my backpack, and I'm ready to go to my next class. I'm like, okay, come on. And I'm refreshing the page, and the auction ends, and I won it. And I was like, yeah, all right, class. Log out class. And so I run to class, and like, so every time I see that pamphlet, I think of that story of running between classes and getting the auction in at the last second and winning it, and how good that felt. And it was like literally an adventure, because I was literally running to the auction end.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Fun times, fun memories.
Yeah. Especially like, the so much of what made that story real for me was remembering, like, before we had the kind of mundanity of smartphones and everything being connected and having automation on everything. Like, you had to clarify multiple times there, like, different times. That is a great story. And it's a cool thing to, I mean, it calls back to what we were talking about earlier about the recalling the things that help us remember something useful. I'm just thinking about that for a second. Okay, thinking done. So, Fangirl, creator, gamer, collector. When did you decide to start doing cosplay?
Ooh. That was also in college.
Okay.
I had known of cosplay before then. Of course, I was looking at, I saw pictures online, and I had always admired cosplayers. But I was in high school, and I had never really, I'd never been to a convention. I didn't know how to go. I didn't, like it was all a big mystery to me, and it was scary because go traveling. I never like traveled anywhere by myself. And so it was just kind of like, I never even considered like going to a convention or cosplaying. But then when I was in college, I met a bunch of friends who did go to conventions and cosplay.
Nice.
And so when OhioCon came around that January, halfway through the school year, they said, "Do you want to go to OhioCon with us?" I was like, "I can do that?" Like, what? Oh my God. I was like, wait, can I cosplay? Oh my God. So it was like they opened this world to me, kind of like saying, you can do it. right?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
now because I didn't believe that I could do it.
Right.
And they before that, like for Halloween, they were all dressed in their anime costumes, and
Mhm.
they let me borrow one of their friends' anime costumes, and I didn't even know who the character was, but I felt like a magical girl. I was like, "This is amazing," right?
Hell
I was so
yeah.
excited, and it made
Yeah.
me feel so good, because all my friends were doing it, and I was like, "Oh my god, look at me, I'm a character," because it was like this bright pink kimono, and I was all like happy,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, "This feels so good." And I was like, what if I could dress as my favorite character?
Right.
And so they invited me to OhioCon, me and my little sister, we
Mhm.
both went. And and we didn't know the first thing about sewing, but my mom sews.
Mhm.
See, but by my dad raising me in technology and computers and gaming, while
Ah.
my mom is very into sewing and crafts and baking and that kind of thing. So when we went to a convention, where we said, like, we want to make costumes. Look at all these people dressing up. We want to do that. And
Mhm.
of course, after we convinced them to let us go.
Mhm.
So my mom, being the absolutely incredible, supportive, wonderful woman that she is, practically made our costumes for us, made these amazing, like
Nice.
form-fitted costumes, Sailor Moon costumes, of
Go
course.
mom.
We didn't know anything about sewing, so she pretty much made them for us, like spent countless hours making these costumes to the exact specifications that we wanted
Wow.
her to make them. And we even did, like, it's not like we were following a pattern. Like we want this and we want this and we want it to look like this, and there's no pattern for that at Joanne
Uh-huh.
Fabrics. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So she was making her own patterns and everything, just because to make us happy, so we could go to this convention and dress up.
Go mom.
And I know, and we did. And we even did an onstage performance and won Best Novice Performance.
What did you do?
We sang and danced in our Sailor Moon costumes. We sang in Japanese in our
Uh,
Sailor Moon costumes at
Very
our
good.
very first convention ever.
Very good. Okay.
Oh my gosh. So, and that we had so much fun. We just did it ever since.
Mhm.
I did it for 10 years. I learned how to sew. My mom kept helping me while I lived at home. She taught me how to sew, and I took it from there, and when I got my own sewing machine, that was it. That was it.
Mhm.
I was,
Mhm.
and at that time, like tutorials were starting to pop up online
Yeah.
on how to do things and how to modify things and style wigs. So I would go on and I would search for tutorials and just
Uh-huh.
read the tutorials and learn how to do it and how to modify patterns.
Yeah.
My mom gave me all the basics I needed, and then I learned how to do the rest myself, and until I got to the point where even my mom was like, "How'd you do that?"
Ooh, nice. Yeah. That is so cool. So I'm drawing a common thread here. Tell me if you think it's accurate about the thing you said earlier about collecting was that it was about finding a way that that was for you, that was uniquely yours, of expressing passion for the things you're interested in. And I hear that thread coming through also with the cosplay. Is that fair?
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how long did the cosplay thing go on for you?
I did it for about a solid 10 years. There was a point where I was going to like 8 conventions a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And why did you stop?
The person that I lived with at the time, that I was the group of friends that I was around very actively going to conventions
Yeah.
too, I moved away.
Mm-hmm.
Um and like I kind of I moved and started a new life with my now husband,
Yeah.
and we cosplayed a little bit. But we really got into Dagorhir, which is foam weapon fighting and medieval events. Because that's where we met, actually. That this is going into a whole nother
Oh,
topic,
oh,
but
we got to hear that story. Hold the phone.
uh,
All right. So, Peachy, the story of how you and your husband met. Let's have it.
oh my gosh. So, wow. So my sister started, she got in with friends who went to these medieval events.
Okay.
That you go there, you come up with a role play name and persona, and they're at campgrounds, and everybody
Mm-hmm.
dresses medieval the entire time. No one's ever in mundane clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And some people role play, some don't. It's kind of just a very casual, kind of like
Okay.
a very
Okay.
casual LARPing event that's focused more on a system of foam weapon fighting. Like there's a very heavy sport aspect to it.
Okay. Huh.
But you can go just casually, and like I took photographs, and I liked
Sure.
taking
Sure.
photos and just hanging
Sure.
out with my friends and
Yeah.
partying at night, and just a bunch of nerds at a campground having fun, right? And my sister got into with friends who started going to those, and she would always come back with all of these fun stories
Uh-huh.
from the events. And I would go to conventions. I'm like, oh my god, anime conventions are so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
What's this all about? I like medieval themed stuff, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
like camping because, going back to how awesome our parents are, growing up, they took us camping
Mm-hmm.
constantly. So I was like, I
Mm.
love camping and I love medieval stuff. So like, I was like, can I go? She was like, yeah, you can come. So I went with her one year and had a blast. And I was like, I'm going to this every year. So I
Uh-huh.
started going to all the big events of that. And at one of those events, I met my husband. And because it was actually his first event
Okay.
of that. And I was about a year into it, and we just happened to meet,
Mm-hmm.
and our
Mm-hmm.
energies clicked, and we hit it off. And so that kind of, so when our two worlds merged, when we got together,
Yeah. Yeah.
we did a little bit of the cosplay and convention thing, and we
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of the Dagorhir thing because he was super into that, and I
Was he a
was,
competitor?
oh yeah, oh yeah, he
What?
goes on the battlefield, and
What is the sport? Can you describe it?
it's it can be anything from just one-on-one to giant battles of versus hundreds of people,
Okay.
depending on, of course, the size of the
And they
event,
have
and
they have like foam versions of medieval weapons and
they're
some rules for.
swords, axes, spears, javelins, bows and arrows, and pretty much any like medieval weapon you can think of.
Okay.
And there are rules, there are specifications, all for safety.
Referees, I
And
gotta
all
imagine.
Yep, heralds as we call them.
Of course.
Yep, they're there to watch everything. They'll call out if someone's, doing something wrong or breaking the rules.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, there's just a set of rules, and you go on there, and all of the weapons are padded for
Mhm.
safety, and they just go out there and wail on each other.
Do people come away with bruises? It's all the same?
Yeah, not as many as you'd think,
Hmm.
because there's a lot of safety standards. Every single weapon that's used is tested before, every day before battle.
Mm-hmm.
There's like designated testers that make sure they're safe.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Yeah.
imagining your husband with like a secret, like a gun locker, but instead of guns, it's all just foam medieval weaponry. Is that accurate?
Pretty much. I wish he had a locker to keep them all in, but yes, very accurate.
Okay. Okay. All right. Picture painted. So you guys met at it's called Dagorhir. Am I saying that right?
Dagorhir
Okay.
is the name of the sport.
Uh-huh.
The event was Ragnarok.
Got it. Got it. And then you guys started merging your worlds of
Right.
geeky fandom.
Right. So he would cosplay and come to conventions with me. And we would go to Dagorhir, and he was so into Dagorhir.
Hmm.
And it was brand new to me,
Mm-hmm.
that it was very exciting. I had done the anime thing for 10 years, and while I still adored it, Dagorhir was very new, and it was much, much cheaper than going to anime conventions and cosplaying, which was another big
Ah.
thing. So we're like, we could go to like 2 anime conventions a year, or we could go to like 12 Dagorhir events,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So we tended to do more Dagorhir, and so we just kind of transitioned into that instead.
Sure.
And I also got to make costumes for that because I would make our medieval tabards. I would make myself dresses. I would make him outfits.
That is really cool. And how cool that you guys found had complementary kind of interests right from the start.
Yeah. But still two very different kinds of geeks. Like I said before, like appreciating things in different ways, but appreciating the same things. Like when we went to Dagorhir, he's on the field fighting, right? And I'm on the side taking pictures.
Right.
While he's doing it.
Right. And
we complement each other very well.
I love that. That is, for me, very instructive of a thing that I love to see when it comes out in the world, which is people finding a way to respect each other. And like, and this is a tangent I don't really want to go down too much, but one of the things I look at closely is places where fan communities seem divided against themselves in one way or another. If anyone's following MMO news right now, World of Warcraft community is going through some like real serious stuff. Guild Wars 2 community at times has had its moments. And I think during those times, it becomes very hard for people to see each other in the way that you're describing, like with you and your husband, where you saw this in him and he saw this in you. And that is kind of like a best case scenario. One of the reasons I really love doing these one-on-one conversations is because I think that maybe the only way to look at those problems is to actually humanize them. And a lot of gaming experiences especially, put a lot of effort into making their social experiences, let's say, have less friction. And the cool thing about that is it makes some experiences more accessible. But the thing about it that I tend to not like is that it means that the way that you're interacting with other people is less as with them as you aren't interacting with the full human. You know, they're not
on social media. Absolutely not.
Social media, another dimension of that. Totally.
Yeah.
And so, like this kind of conversation, like one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you is because I think that it can be very easy to look at someone who does content that is not hitting for you let's say a very resonant chord. Like for me, I'm not really a collector, right? But if we can find a way to surface the thing itself that the collecting emits from, and find a way to humanize those perspectives, it gives us a way to, it gives us some useful, let's say, models for mediating conflict and for understanding what a perspective that seems like it might be against you might be coming from, and where there's merit in it, and how it's not appropriate to just disregard or even worse, potentially insult or engage in a conflict with that person. I see those kinds of negative outcomes everywhere, right? And a big part of the reason I feel called to do these one-on-one talks is to do those. And like, sorry, I actually am trying to minimize this tangent, even though it may not seem like I am. One more thing I'll mention about it is that's another reason why I feel really called to try to talk to developers for games, because I think it's really, really, really hard to be a developer who is sympathetic or empathetic with the needs or criticisms of a game's audience. But because of the way that the work happens, you can't really engage with your audience in a fully human one-on-one way. Because at the end of the day, when your livelihood is based on projecting a certain image, is based on being very careful about the things you say, because people are trying to plan things out, and when you're a developer and you're speaking, you're not just speaking for yourself. You're speaking on behalf of a huge number of other people and work that preceded you, stuff that's not even done by you. So I think it's really difficult to do. And the things that I find the most difficult to, let's say, ingest are when I see not just game communities divided against themselves, but game communities and developers seeming to fight each other, because the way that we can humanize each other is so difficult. So that's kind of that's me in my pulpit. Apologize, but I really like the story you told about you and your husband. I really exemplified that quality to me.
Oh, thank you. No, you're absolutely right. They're not ever able to tell you the full story or the full picture because, like you said, it's not just them. It's an entire team of people working on this. They're speaking for all of them, but they're also they can't say legally can't, non-disclosure agreements. They're the company who owns the product is keeping them from doing that. And I think not everybody realizes that. And when a product comes out, we're seeing something that they might have worked on a year ago.
Right.
And it took a year to go through quality assurance and all of that. So, when you're talking about when a developer is seeing, when the new episode releases or the new expansion releases, they're already on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And, I think they go through a process of trying to recall when they were working on this content that the players are just now seeing is brand new, So by the time it comes out, they might not even be the same person.
Right.
As the person who developed that content.
Yeah.
And there's a disconnect. And, they've already moved past all the feelings, that they put into creating it.
Yeah.
Because they're on to the next thing.
And if let's say your past work that you have moved on from in some way, not only in time, but perhaps in, as you say, like the way the person feels about themselves, like you it's almost like you're being called to defend a part of like a past version of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I think you're dead on there. And yeah, it's really it's just a darn shame when to me the humanity behind so many of the things that I can. It's kind of like when you're on the road, right? Like, let's say you're driving somewhere on a highway. Even worse, let's say you're on a daily commute, something you do habitually. So your brain is almost all the way switched off. And let's say something interrupts your commute. Let's say someone cuts you off in traffic, right? Well, what's the thing we all do? We all assume that this person's an asshole. They're not paying attention, or even worse, that they're mad, like they want to screw with you particularly. But I saw a great speech by writer David Foster Wallace called "This Is Water," and he described this exact situation. And that speech is kind of an exhortation to encourage people to direct their awareness with intent, rather than to revert to what he calls a default state of awareness, which he characterizes as a deep conviction that everything that transpires is about me, just because I'm experiencing the reality through my own skin. And so if you projecting that through this situation, being on the road, being cut off, if the situation really is about you, then yeah, that person they're dumber than you are. That's your immediate assumption. Or maybe they're less considerate than you. Maybe they're an asshole. Or maybe they have a sick child in the passenger seat, and they're distracted and trying to get to the hospital. Or maybe they just got a phone call from a family member, or are getting a terrible piece of news. We don't know We don't know the things about other people's lives that add up to the behaviors that we observe. And there is a tendency to shrink down people to these easy stereotypes that at the end of the day aren't about others, that they're about us. And for me, I guess, I feel like I can so easily see when I see something in a game that didn't come out right, let's say. I feel like I can so easily see the sick child in the passenger seat. I feel like I can so easily imagine the mitigating circumstances that could result in something. I had a chat with Cameron Rich. He's a senior game designer at Arena Networking at Guild Wars 2. And he's done some incredible stuff. And he's working on Strikes for End of Dragons. A lot of people are very excited about it, rightfully so. Very talented guy. But he walked me through where he was at in his life when he designed the Drakkar world boss. And I don't think he feels like it's his best work. And it's not got to do with his ability, but with his mental state when he was working on that stuff at the time. And I don't think you necessarily can read that by playing the event, but
No.
there is a serious amount of context that we can never ever be fully aware of, and obviously we can't live our lives in a way where we're always letting everything off the hook and withholding judgment indefinitely, right? There is like a critical threshold, but yeah, I think that I made whatever point I wanted to make with that
Beautifully
tangent.
said. No, you're absolutely 100% right. Beautifully said. And it really is. It goes down to the core philosophy that we are all naturally we see reality through our own eyes and through our
Yeah.
own minds, and that's how we all interpret our reality, and those realities are different.
Hmm.
And but naturally we see ourselves, we are the center of our reality.
Hmm.
And it is hard to see it from other people's perspectives unless you actively try to do that.
Hmm.
And uh you can reverse it when people are worried. I see this a lot as a creator.
Okay.
People say, um, you know, what if my stuff's not good enough? What if my content's
Hmm.
not good enough? And
Hmm.
other people are gonna judge me, or I make a mistake, and then people are gonna people are gonna hate it.
Right.
And people are you saw that content through every single step of its creation, and it something, a 3-minute music video could take me 20 hours to make,
Yeah.
right? And I was there for that entire 20 hours. So
Hmm.
I know the blood, sweat, and tears, and sweat on my chair that went into, and sore fingers that went into making that.
Hmm.
Whereas the person observing only sees those 3 minutes. They see the finished product. And they're seeing it through their eyes, and they're seeing it from their perspective, and they're only concerned about themselves. And
Did I like it?
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, did I like it? Was it to my liking?
Did it
And
speak to me personally?
then they're on to the next thing.
Hmm.
Mostly.
Sure.
And so it's anytime someone's gonna judge you, anytime someone's gonna, it's about them,
Hmm.
and then they say that, if someone, people are gonna perceive you as they want to perceive you through their reality, and it's gonna reflect who they are and what they're going through.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of all over the place with that train of thought, but
I
yeah.
hear what you're saying. So, like in response to the problem, let's say that the fear of being seen and the fear of being judged, um, by an audience that inevitably will fail to see the creator behind the creation, in some sense. Where does that leave the creator? How should we act? you could do something. I mean, I'm kind of almost opted out of this because I've made myself the creation. Ta-da! Here I am. But if you're making
Some creators want to be seen for them,
yeah,
and some don't. Some never show their face. You never hear their voice. Most authors, I think, they want to be known only by their work, not by themselves. But then there are creators who do, and who make their face and their voice, the content. And there's a big divide there.
One of my favorite aphorisms about creators talking about their work is from a writer named Charles Bukowski. And he was being interviewed by a woman who asked him why he didn't choose to talk to some other famous writer of his time. I can't remember who it was. And his response was, me talking to another writer is like drinking water in the bathtub. It's like, if you're a creator, there's nothing to be said. There are just things to create. I think that was his point of view. I could respect that. I've definitely gotten that vibe from people who I've reached out to to do interviews like these, who said, you know what, I don't need to. And I got to remember that, that's totally okay.
Me, I love talking about myself. Gosh darn it.
Me too. I don't get why everyone doesn't love it. Why isn't everyone like us? This is the good stuff.
Oh my goodness. The number of times I've asked my mom, like, oh, Mom, I've seen this really funny video of, like, my mom reacts to or tries to guess all the Smash Brothers characters, right? I was like, you do a video with it? She's like, no. I don't want to be on camera. No. Nope. She said, nope.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's okay.
That's an interesting one. I've had short conversations with my wife about potentially having her as a guest on the podcast someday, because there's an interesting story to tell here about how we met. Maybe people will be interested in that, but my whole first year and a half of playing Guild Wars 2 was something I did with her. It was her introduction to video games, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
So it's kind of a fun story there, but maybe that'll get told someday. I think that would be cool. Again, feeling like you do, episodes. It would be so cool, but does she want to do it? Yeah. Okay. Well,
I'm glad you tried it.
Yeah. It was a good thing to have at a moment in our life at that time. We moved on from it in a lot of ways, but it was very good. And I will save that story for another time. Peachy, can we take like a short break?
Let's do it.
Let's take a short break, y'all. Everyone, stretch your legs, get a drink of water or whatever your chosen beverage is, and we'll be right back. We're back. We're back with some adorable puppies. The reason everyone actually tuned in. Who's this, Peachy?
That's right. This is Skipper.
Skipper.
I got 3 little puppies, Skipper, Biscuit, and Jack. Oh, you're a good girl. You're a good girl. She's a super crazy spaz until I hold her, and then she's just like, "Oh, Mom."
That is adorable. My family dogs growing up always hated being held, and that somehow,
aww.
I think that might be more about me because we have a cat now, and it's the exact same way.
Oh no!
She'll chill out for hours. She's awesome, very mild. But then if you hold her, she's just like, "What are you doing? What is this?"
We have a cat that's literally liquid when you pick him up. He just has, like all his bones just disappear. Oh, they're so funny, but they're such characters.
Yeah.
Pets are such a joy and a frustration, but a joy to have.
Yeah. Oh. Do you think that pets end up resembling their owners over time in terms of their personality?
Perhaps. But I think they come with their own personality, and then I don't know if they imitate ours, but you influence each other's.
Yeah.
personalities.
Yeah.
Like when we got Jack, did he just come up? I don't think so. When we first got Jack, he was a very nervous and like scared of everything.
Hmm.
Like didn't trust us to pick him up, or like we pick him up and he would like freeze, and he was just very tentative about every single little thing. And over time, through loving him and showing him it was okay, and he's done a 180 in like the 5 years that we've had him, and now he is just the happiest, spunkiest little guy you've ever met in the whole entire world. And he's had a myriad of health problems that you like, injuries, and he doesn't have any teeth. But he is the happiest little guy you've ever seen in your entire life.
Dogs are lovely that way. They're just like,
And it's rewarding.
yeah, yeah. I grew up with dogs, and I totally know what you're talking about. I got introduced to cats back in Christmas 2017 because there was a cat that had been spotted around the parking lot at our parking complex, and I live in Pacific Northwest, the part of it where it never snows, so close to the coast. And it was randomly snowing, and we knew there was a cat that was lost. And so my wife, of course, couldn't tolerate this fact, and she grabbed a blanket and went out with a mission to grab that
Bless
cat
her heart.
and bring it indoors. Oh yeah, totally. And I was like, I don't know if we can have a cat. We're gonna have fleas. What's what you need to worry about? And you go take it to the vet. And she's like, we have to rescue the cat.
Aww.
And I was like, and of course it's a vulnerable animal. You can't help but love it. And then after a day or two, it's like the she's staying here vibes are so strong coming off my wife, and I'm just like, I'm afraid to get attached because we never have had as a couple. My wife and I never had a pet. We've never been in a place big enough. Mm-hmm. And now, of course, she's quite comfortable living with us, and we have all these little routines, and it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine our domestic life without that cat. And,
absolutely.
Like I honestly think that like there's a palliative aspect to having a house pet like that can reflect something back to you, even if it's a cat. And cats are like mysterious, like they're like you don't really like, what do they think? What is she thinking about right now? Like why is she staring at the wall? Like what's going on? You don't really know what's going on. With a dog, you're more likely to know. But all the same, it's just like knowing that she'll be there, that she'll be excited flopping around on the ground when we get home, or that she'll need us to feed her and be all adorable. She gets more adorable the hungrier she gets, which is very useful adaptation for her.
They train you as much as you train them.
Yes, exactly.
You become a part of each other's lives.
Yeah.
And they change you. I had a similar situation with Skipper and Jack. My sister-in-law, my husband's sister, passed away suddenly, and Skipper and Jack were they were her two dogs. They were her babies, and of course my husband grieving, and he actually he knew that she had these two dogs, and it was just her and the two dogs. So he was like, they're home alone in her house. And so he went over there and literally rescued them. There was a little tear in the window, like the window was open just a little bit, and he said he got there and their little faces were in the screen looking outside, and he just like he couldn't get into the house, so he put his arms up and they jumped into his arms, and he brought them home. And we had already had Biscuit, so we had all the puppy stuff at home, so we could take care of them. And unfortunately she passed away, but and afterwards it was like, okay, so what about the dogs? And me, I was already, even though I adored dogs, at the time, I adopted Biscuit because I specifically wanted a Chihuahua, because my mom and my grandma like they had Chihuahuas, and so we're kind of a Chihuahua family.
All right. All right.
So I was only used to Chihuahuas. I wasn't used to other dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And so suddenly bringing in two dogs that weren't Chihuahuas I was very resistant to it. But my husband, he basically decided like we're adopting them, we're taking care of them because otherwise we would have had to take them to like a shelter. And
that's
of
too
course
sad.
that was and he's like we're perfectly capable of adopting them, and so okay, we'll get used to it and everything, and but now I can't imagine my life without them. They're always at my feet. They're always around me. This one is my shadow. Like I call her my mini pet because she follows me around like a mini pet. She literally can't be more than like 10 feet from me at any time. I'll tell her I'm leaving the room for 10 seconds. Just stay there. Nope, she's at my feet. Like while I go get a drink of water.
Bit of a
Bless her
mama's.
heart. I would, yep, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's great. Pets are so lovely. Okay. Well, speaking of mini pets, I'm glad you said that. That's a transition for us. We haven't talked at all about Guild Wars 2, and I feel like we should.
Probably.
Okay. So that Guild Wars 2 is, of course, my conduit for getting to originally know you and your content. I love the game. I know you absolutely love the game. Maybe the way we can start this off is by having you just tell me what attracted you to the game originally and how you became a fan of it.
I started in Guild Wars 1.
Okay.
My boyfriend at the time played Guild Wars 1 with his friends online. And I had never played an MMO. I don't know if I had even like really understood the genre. I didn't know about it really because I just never played one. And so I would watch him play and but was never really interested in joining myself because I just had a bunch of other games that I played, and I was like, I'll just go play those while you go play Guild Wars 2. Or Guild Wars 1, I'm sorry. And the factions beta weekend came around where anyone could go in and explore factions, and so he was of course super excited about this. And he's like, well, go on my friend's account and just go in with a character and just look at all the skills and look at all the shinies, right? And so I did, and I was actually with the beta weekend, I think they put you into like max level with all the skills. Either way, I was overwhelmed because I didn't quite understand MMOs, and there was the attribute system. There was this giant list of skills in Guild Wars 1. My goodness, skills for days. And I was too overwhelmed. I didn't quite understand what was going on, and I couldn't like connect with it. So I actually, my first experience with Guild Wars 1, I didn't like it. And I was just like, nah, this isn't for me. But so he's like, that's fine. So he continued to play with his friends. And I think over time, I started watching him and hearing them laughing and having fun. And I was like, well, maybe I'll give it another shot. But let me start from like level 1. So I borrowed his friend's account who didn't play anymore and started a level 1 character. And he showed me the game and we started playing. And when I started from the beginning and wasn't overwhelmed with all the skills and all the end game stuff, I was able to get into it and understand it, and ended up really liking it. And then for Christmas that year, Nightfall had already come out because ArenaNet was cranking out these campaigns. My goodness, for Guild Wars 1. So by that Christmas or the next Christmas or whenever, I got all 3 campaigns, Prophecies, Factions, and Nightfall, for Christmas. And that was it. I started from Prophecies and I just played through to Nightfall. I just had a freaking blast playing through the campaign and the story and playing online with my friends. And I was hooked from that moment. I don't know. Just something about the world and the mechanics of everything I completely fell in love with. The lore, the lore of the Guild Wars universe is like so deep and so interesting. And I just completely fell in love with the lore. And from that moment I was absolutely hooked. So I played Guild Wars 1. I have over like probably 2,500 hours on Guild Wars 1.
Nice.
So when Guild Wars 2 was coming out,
Yeah.
I was all in. Oh my god, Guild Wars 2, what?
Yeah. So, what were you feeling when you found out? I don't know a lot of people who were there for this. When you found out that rather than making more Guild Wars 1, they were going to say they're going to take 5 years to make Guild Wars 2. Was there some sadness about letting go of Guild Wars 1, or were you just like, yeah, let's do it?
I don't remember a sadness. I was in a guild at the time, and they were all going to go to Guild Wars 2, of course. So I think that helped my transition because I knew all of the friends that I was playing with were also going to play Guild Wars 2, and they're like, well, let's start the guild in Guild Wars 2 and all play together, right? So that definitely helped the transition and helped doing all the end game achievements, getting all the titles, doing all
the Hall of Monuments.
Yep,
that tie-in they did was so classy. I love that.
Oh, so brilliant. Doing the Guild Wars Beyond content, all of that kept us busy, and then just playing with my guildmates and having fun, and so I don't remember like it being this horrible transition, and then just like following the news about Guild Wars 2, every little tidbit about Guild Wars 2 we got was exciting, you know, and then the beta weekends, and so no, it wasn't like this god awful wait in my memory.
Okay.
Which is good.
Yeah. So you said you started in factions, right? So Kurzik or Luxon?
Kurzik.
Me too.
Kurzik. Yeah.
I feel like we're so outnumbered.
I just liked their aesthetic better, personally. I was like, ooh, I like the dresses that the ladies have on with their corsets, and like, I don't know. I just liked at the time, I just liked the gothic aesthetic better.
Me too. And like the gloomy forest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something lovely and edgelordy about it. I just love it.
There was.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like over time, Luxons have won the cultural war. I wonder with End of Dragons if we'll have any kind of a remnant of that Kurzik Luxon conflict.
They have to. I think, I don't know this for sure, but I think in the lore, those factions aren't around anymore. I don't know if they merged. I don't know if they just dissolved out or turned into something else. I'm sure they like turned into something else. But
we're getting siege turtles, so maybe the Luxons won.
Right. Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, right. But they've shown a lot of concept art of House Helzer, but I think it's like taken over by Forest or something.
Yeah.
I think maybe the Luxons really won. I don't know, but we're gonna see something. There's gonna be references. There's gonna be. I know there's gonna be some kind of story there.
Yeah,
for sure.
I definitely have more I want to ask you about End of Dragons. I'm gonna pin that for the moment, despite that I'm very tempted to go down that road because we have some more bricks to lay. I think for Guild Wars. So, at what point in your... Let me rephrase this question. When you started doing creator stuff on YouTube, was it with a Guild Wars emphasis, or was it more of a general kind of focus?
When I very first started on YouTube, I was doing Let's Play videos for all of my favorite Super Nintendo games that I grew up with.
Oh, nice.
I started with Aladdin. I did Donkey Kong Country 2. I did half of Super Mario RPG. I never finished that initial Let's Play. I just picked these games that I had just loved because when I started watching things on YouTube, I started watching Let's Players. And I would hours and hours and hours, I would sit there and watch Let's Players.
Yeah.
And I was just enamored with this content. And then one day I said, I can do that.
Right.
Why can't there's no I know how to video edit. I have a microphone. I'm passionate about these games.
Yeah.
So I was okay. That looks like a lot of fun talking about my favorite game while I play through it. Yes. So I did, and I did that for I don't know a year or two, and then Guild Wars 2 came out. I actually have still on my YouTube channel one of the Guild Wars 2 beta weekends. I recorded myself playing it and put that up. No intention to like be a Guild Wars 2 content creator or anything like that.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
was just so unbelievably hyped for Guild Wars 2
mhm.
that I was like, well, let me just record myself going through the beta and my reactions to it. It's actually my first reaction video ever,
Ah, I
which is
see,
kind of what
I
my
see.
content is based on now.
Mhm.
Um, and I did that beta video, and then when Guild Wars 2 launched, I dropped everything. I think I did a couple vlogs here and there,
Uh-huh,
but I didn't do Let's Plays, I didn't do Guild Wars 2 content, I didn't do anything. My life was playing Guild Wars 2
uh-huh,
for like just personally in my own time. For like 2 years, I did nothing. My husband has a famous story of we were getting ready to go to a wedding,
uh-huh.
and I was completely ready, but he's like, I just give me 5 minutes and we'll be out
Mhm.
the door. I went and played Guild Wars 2 for 5 minutes because I had 5 minutes to kill. So I went and booted up and logged into Guild Wars 2.
Uh-huh.
And he was just like, "Are you seriously playing Guild Wars 2 right now? Like, we have to go." I was like, "You said you needed 5 minutes. I'm ready to go." My life was Guild Wars 2. So, yeah. And then I came back to content creation once that settled down a little bit. Really,
Mhm.
once I started watching other Guild Wars 2 creators.
Yeah.
Wooden Potatoes, Bog Otter, Matt Visual at the
Mhm,
time
mhm.
were like big content creators for Guild Wars 2, and being very passionate and needing to get my passions out somehow,
Yeah.
I started to watch these creators while I'm playing Guild Wars 2, while I'm farming, while I'm, leveling
Mhm,
up other characters. I'm
mhm,
watching Guild Wars 2 creators on the side, uh and then kind of the same thought process struck.
mhm,
I can do that.
mhm.
I can record myself playing Guild Wars 2. I did it once before. Let's do it again. Because season 1 was starting to come out, and I had new content to react to everything that came out. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was like,
Mhm.
why am I not recording this and putting
Mm.
this on YouTube?
Mhm,
Hmm. Okay. And so I
mhm,
just started doing that because I thought that would be fun because I had done the Let's Plays.
mhm.
So let's do that. And that was literally how I started creating for Guild Wars 2.
Makes sense, makes sense. So is there any quality about Guild Wars 2 that you can single out that that 2 years of just, like, playing the game is something I so relate to. Like, there've been moments in my life where it's like, I don't care, there's a game to be played. Like, seriously. Um, are there any qualities about the game at that time that jump out at you as, like, being like, "This is what I found the most compelling," or, "This was the most interesting to me." Is there anything specific you can call out?
Hmm. I think what kept me the most hooked was having a goal,
Mhm.
having an achievement, something I was trying to accomplish
Okay.
in the game. And for a long time after launch, of course, first and foremost was getting through the story, getting to level 80, getting that
Yeah,
first character through the game.
the basics.
But once that was done, I wanted to try out the other classes.
Mhm.
So I made my goal, my mission in the game, to level one of every class to 80 by
Okay.
taking them through the story.
To collect every
Um,
class?
collect every class.
Mhm.
Gotta catch them all. And so that was my goal. And then once I did that, it was let's max every crafting profession. And it
Mhm.
just went on and on and on and on from there. And so I think I excel the most, I get hooked the most when I have a specific goal that I'm trying to accomplish. And
Okay.
that goes till this day. My favorite thing is like I have a legendary to craft, or I have this giant, achievement to get through. Right now, the Seasons of the Dragon achievement where you're replaying everything
Right.
again, and you have this giant checklist of things that
Mhm.
excites me because I'm very slowly working towards something, and along the way I have these little achievements, these little I can check something off
Mhm.
along the way.
Mhm.
That hooks me the most.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of teased it a moment ago, but that sounds very similar to me to like the physical collection of stuff, like the a similar kind of process where you have something you get excited about, and then you kind of plan it. You have an adventure around getting there, and then when you finish it, you have. I mean, I guess you don't really have like a maybe we need like a trophy shelf in Guild Wars 2 where we can like single out individual achievements and like have like something like what you have sitting behind you, you know?
That is, I think, decorating your character with your legendary trinkets, your
You're
fashion, your
right.
ascended items, your all of that. So your character can be a digital collection of your achievements.
There it is. There it is. And is there an achievement you're particularly proud of?
Mm, my goodness. I do have a full set of heavy legendary armor.
Yeah, the raid
Because
armor?
I raided for years. Yeah,
Okay.
the raid one.
Okay.
Because I raided with friends for many years. I think the first 6 raid wings I've done.
Yeah.
Um, whichever ones get you the legendary armor and then like one more.
The first
'Cause
four
I got
were the ones involved with the armor. And
the
then
armor. Okay.
yeah. So
I think I've done all but the most recent one.
okay.
But yeah,
Sure.
super fun times. Super fun times. So that
So
I guess would be an achievement too, is getting through all those raids.
are you like a hardcore raider?
I was never hardcore, and I don't raid
Uh
anymore. I just
okay.
don't have the time, and the patience. But
Okay.
yeah, when raids first came out, a group of friends for the guild that I was in, other than my own Peachy party one,
Mhm.
um, everybody wanted to, of course, try the raid content.
Yeah. That was
So
such an exciting time.
yeah, and I thought, "Ooh, raids?
Oh my god.
Super hardcore Guild Wars 2 content? Yeah, I'll give that a try."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff, good stuff. And we weren't like super ultra elite, like sometimes it would take us 2 months to beat a boss,
Uh-huh.
but we did it. We
Mhm.
worked together and we helped each other and we did it, and it felt so good when we took down
Uh-huh.
a boss,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, it was great. I did that for years and had a great time.
Yeah. Yeah, the raids were an awesome time for me too. I also fondly remember that. Like you, one of my proudest, I guess, achievements in Guild Wars 2 is also the heavy raid armor. Uh,
Nice.
and I remember at one time I was really hopeful and trying to get the title, and I can't remember what it is, what it's called, but the title that's reflective of completing every single encounter in the first raid wing without having any party members die. Um,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Eternal, I think
I
maybe that's what it is.
Eternal? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and over time, the coolness of that title has diminished quite a bit. But
Sure,
there
sure.
was a time where that was like a badge of cool.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Oh, I wore that with pride. Yes.
Yes.
I remember having the great sword that drops from Veil Guardian, the
Oh
very first
yeah.
boss, where it kind of looks like the floor under
Yeah,
the
like
Veil
the
Guardian.
stones and like the teal
Yes.
energy.
It glows,
Yeah.
yes, and it was, like, really rare that anybody had that, and I
Uh huh.
happened to have it drop, and I remember wearing that sword, and people like, random people messaging me in game saying, "Dude, what sword is that? How do you get that? That's so
Yeah.
cool," and I was like,
Yeah.
"It's the raid sword."
Me and my elite raid group got
Thank
it.
you, it's awesome, isn't it?
That is cool. That is
I gotta say,
cool.
I've never run around with, like, Exordium and had people like, "Cool sword," right? Everybody knows what the legendary looks like, but the
Right?
raid sword? Ooh, cool, that's really awesome. I've gotten more compliments on that sword after it first came out than
Interesting.
anything.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a kind of fascinating like almost like a rareness economy in when it comes to
Mm,
cosmetics where
mm,
people understand to appreciate things that are less common, like
yeah.
that are striking but less common. So in the legendaries, maybe you'll see 25 sunrises when you go to Lion's Arch, but if you see something like that, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
well, that's interesting. I want to pay attention to that.
I didn't know that existed. Wow, that's super cool, yeah.
For a little while, I was really enamored with the sunrise precursor, Dawn. I thought it had a really
Mm,
cool look. But anyway,
yeah, for sure.
yeah, I have a really fond memory of when my wife and I were still playing daily. One of the things that we did was after Heart of Thorns came out and they implemented the legendary quests, and we decided
Yep.
to use that as our excuse to pursue a legendary, our first legendary. And we went to make Sunrise, me and my warrior, her on her guardian, and that was really a really fun thing to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
One thing to work towards together.
Yeah, and then like we crafted it together, and it's just like, you know,
Oh,
going around
nice.
doing dailies with our sunrises and stuff. It was fun, you know. It was a cool moment.
Yeah. The sunrise was the first legendary I crafted, and um, I started streaming Guild Wars 2
Mhm.
on Twitch, and um, the community. Some of you who are here in chat and have been here for years and years and remember this and were
Mhm.
there for it. Um, I like crafting a legendary was so expensive. It was something that I couldn't fathom.
Uh-huh.
But I always wanted one because I was like, sunrise is so beautiful,
Yeah.
right? It's such a cool sword. I would love,
It's
like, so
iconic.
I was, yeah. So I was slowly, working towards it, just real
Mhm.
slowly, just by playing the game. And my community, without prompt, without asking, just starts donating crazy amounts of gold to get the precursor, because you could just buy the precursor off the
Right.
trading post.
Mhm.
And it was like, at the time, I have no idea what the economy is like now,
Mhm.
but at the time, Dawn was like 1,000 gold,
Oh,
and that
yeah.
was just unthinkable
Right.
at the time. I was like, that's an unfathomable amount of gold.
Yeah.
Um, and people are, little by little, 1 gold, 10, 20, 50 gold, 100 gold, like people just start donating. And I'm just sitting there sobbing. And I'm just like, what are you doing? And because it was just this far off unattainable goal.
Yeah.
And everyone starts donating. They'd start donating like the mats and stuff. And I had done a lot of the work myself
Mhm.
already.
Mhm.
And they just like sped it up and got me there. And I know some people will be like, oh, a streamer just gets a legendary. But
Mm.
it's like the collection. It was about the story and the community and real people
Uh-huh.
coming together. Like that, to this day, that sunrise that I have is my community sunrise. That is a
Mhm.
representation of my community. When I look at that sunrise in game, I think of the moments. I think of how we connected emotionally on stream
Yeah.
with my community members. And when I went to craft Sunrise, I went to the Mystic Forge and Lion's Arch. My community was surrounding me in game.
Mhm.
I was sitting there. I was literally crying, I couldn't believe, like, it was a mind-blowing moment. I couldn't believe I was actually crafting a legendary.
Mhm.
And I was combining the things and making the gifts
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
putting the things in the Mystic Forge. And everyone around me, everyone in chat, everyone in game is around me cheering, and they're so happy for me. It was like a moment of bringing the community together to
Yeah.
create this thing
Yeah.
in game. And I actually have a video on my YouTube channel highlighting that experience.
Yeah.
And I go back and it's just such a touching moment that I will literally never forget.
Mhm.
And I could have put in all the work and done all the things and collected all the things myself, and I have for other legendaries
Uh-huh.
since. But I will never forget that sunrise. That sunrise is the most special legendary that I will ever own because of the community that came together to create it.
Right. I bet you can still remember the names of people who were there and who donated.
I actually took names. I took note of all of the in-game names of every single person who donated at the time,
Uh-huh.
even 1 gold or 50 silver,
Mhm.
and I credit them all in the video because I had time for that kind of thing back then. But it's a beautiful thing. I can go back to that video and see the in-game names of every single person who donated and made that possible.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, that's a striking moment, and I believe you. I believe you when you say it was a surprise. I believe you when you say it was
Mm.
a community thing. I believe you when you say it was meaningful and not just all about me streamer, me get stuff.
Mhm.
Um, that that perspective of streamers getting stuff and the kind of resentment that you can see from that, it calls back to me to what we were talking about earlier about the default setting of seeing the world through your your own, uh,
Reality.
assuming that that what's happening is about you in some way. And if someone else is getting something, it means what it really means is that you're not getting something. And what have they done to deserve this? Um, I felt I felt I can recall moments of feeling something similar to that in the past myself. So I mean, I'm not above it or anything. I'm just observing it. But I also want to add that um, the comment about the community. I I read a really fascinating article. One of my viewers, a fellow named Wist, shot me, and it talked about it was kind of about parasocial relationships and that very complicated topic when it comes to streaming communities, especially.
Yeah.
But it actually did something that I really appreciated, which is that it put some effort into explaining the need that streaming communities are meeting, because there is a need that they're meeting. It's not like they've created. It's not like when Twitch came out or Justin TV, its precursor, that humans around the world changed in some fundamental way. And what it did was it described the way that human culture progressed as a result of the technological progress that allowed essentially people to begin making livings that weren't about being on the land, working on land. And when people started moving out of the farms, out of the agricultural areas into cities and things like that, and when you do that, your life isn't with your family, isn't with the same people all the time. And people still have that need for family, but it becomes more and more difficult to attain that fellowship, that very necessary thing that even the most introverted introvert, which I consider myself an introvert, still need. And how do you get that? And it talked about like the history of like social clubs that would come up. Things where you'd pay some token amount and there would be some kind of an event you go to. And I kind of see Twitch communities as meeting the same need as those urban social clubs. And I think that we should be careful when we dismiss moments like what you're describing as being about the streamer. I mean, to a certain extent, yes, like there is benefit there. You are getting a legendary, but you're also paying a cost by being at the front of this community. You're also paying a cost by putting in all the effort and hours you needed to do to build this community, to find these people, for them to find you, to build the rapport. And that is a job that is much harder than most people realize. So, and what we're seeing there is people are usually enthusiastic when they feel valued and like they belong in a community like that, to contribute in ways like that. They'll feel enthusiastic about throwing in, 1 gold, 10 gold, 100 gold, depending on what their means are, how much that they can actually provide. It's because I think it gives them a sense of it allows them. Let me think about how to say this. It's a moment where you can positively reinforce your identity, almost similar to like the power of the collectibles and the totems we talked about. Those moments of social, those markers of social connection are insanely important to our sanity and to our individual identities. And I guess part of this is work that I did before you and I ever spoke, and part of this is me connecting dots while I hear you saying what you're saying. And I really wanted to make sure to say this because it can be very easy to hear the story you told and believe that you've convinced yourself, that you've rationalized an explanation for this that's not really about you, so that you can live, so that you can feel okay about it. But I don't think that that is true. Hopefully what I said sounded fair to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it did. It's like when you see a a piece of artwork,
Mm-hmm.
and then you want to purchase that artwork to put it on your wall
Mm-hmm.
because it meant something to you. This person's creation drove you to want to support them in some way, support
Mm-hmm.
the artist. It's the same with streaming. Streamers are artists, they're creators. So even though our content is out here for free, there are people who it means so much to them that they want to give back to the creator in some way. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
purchasing a piece of art. Instead of a canvas to hang on their wall, they're getting emotes in Twitch chat. They get a little
Mm-hmm.
badge next to their name that says, I supported this streamer. It's like having a piece of artwork up on their wall from a particular artist.
Right.
And they take pride in that. And it allows them to give back, and it allows them to feel good. I've turned down legendary weapons. People have offered me legendary weapons, and I started turning them down because I said, if you give this to me, then I can't. It takes away my need to achieve that in game, which is
Right.
the fun part for me.
Uh-huh.
And I've had people be genuinely saddened by the fact that I wouldn't accept their gift. I was
Yeah.
turning it wasn't just I'm going to give streamer something
Mm-hmm.
rare and for, whatever reason, attention or prestige or whatever. It
Mm-hmm.
was my content meant something to them, and
Mm-hmm.
they emotionally connected with me, my content, whatever that reason may be in their life to connect to my content is different for every person,
Mm-hmm.
but it meant something to them, and them crafting a legendary and wanting to gift it to me meant something to them.
Yeah.
And when I didn't realize this, but when I turned it down, they were genuinely upset that I turned down their gift
Yeah.
to me. And when I realized this, I
Mm-hmm.
accepted it and I said, can I do a giveaway for the
Yeah.
community? So
Mm-hmm.
you're not giving it to me, but we're giving it back to the community. I'm accepting your gift, but let's use it. Let's pay it forward. Right.
Right.
So that's
Right.
what we did. And then they were like, okay, they're like, I'm satisfied with that kind of in
Yeah.
between. But that's when I realized that, while not only am I, as you said, with all the work that goes into streaming
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes that a lot of people don't realize, and that's why streamers can make livings and monetize their content,
Mm-hmm.
because people want to give to these artists that entertain them and that whose content means something to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so my philosophy is, if it's not hurting me to accept it, then who am I to say no to someone who's going to get joy out of giving me $5?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to, they're not doing it. They're doing it because they want to
Mm-hmm.
support my content, and whatever that may mean to them. Who am I to say no to and deny their gift?
Right.
If it's going to bring them joy, because ultimately that's what I'm here to do, is to bring joy and to bring happiness and to spread positivity. And that's just another way that people get joy from this content, by interacting with it, by giving.
Yeah. Totally. Totally right. And people understand that we need these things to make our living. Like those $5, they'll be saved for a rainy day, or they'll go into the rent payment. People understand that money, that what they're giving allows what they're seeing to continue.
Yes.
And it gets to be the fact that it gets to be voluntary makes it more personal. I've always thought that was so interesting and so cool, as opposed to like saying paying a subscription fee for a service, let's say, where it's like, okay, me pay, me get. There's a sense of I gotta think through this a little bit, but I'm feeling like almost like a tiny sense of alienation in that kind of transaction. It's not really about you; it's about
It
your
makes it a
money.
business transaction.
Yeah, and somehow the fact that donating, subscribing, is a voluntary action, and it's initiated not by the party providing the service, but by the party receiving the service. It feels somehow different to me. Ooh, this is painting a strange connection in my mind. Will you indulge me for a moment?
Yes.
Okay, so I've grappled with over the years the what I kind of think of as the morality of microtransactions and services like Guild Wars 2's Gem Store. There are things about it that seem great, things about it that seem not so great to me. But I think what I just said almost sounds to me like a sort of argument on behalf of a system like that, making support voluntary. I guess the part of it that maybe where that doesn't quite stick is the fact that you are paying for something. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
I think that's where when the microtransaction is optional, you don't gain an advantage statistically over others in the game. It's
Right.
cause I always say Guild Wars 2's, yes, it has a cash shop, but it's cosmetic and convenience only.
Right.
Except for the Living World content, which is free when it first comes out.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's optional items.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not the game doesn't like prompt you. The player is opting in to that. It's not
And
like you.
The sense that they're opting in means that in order to enjoy the content, you do that you do not have to engage with those microtransactions.
Right.
And this to me describes a sense that I often have when I engage with gem stores or their equivalents in other games, which is like I feel some joy at being able to support a game in a way that is more in line with how I'm able to support it.
Right.
Right? You know, when I was a student, I couldn't do much. When I'm a decade into my career, I can do a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I come at it from. And there are even games where I pay a sub fee even during the months where I'm not playing it, because to me, that the people who work on that game and that community means something to me, even when I'm not directly engaging with it. And I'd like to support. And I do that, even though in a sense I'm doing it for them. It feels like more like I'm doing it for me. Like I'm trying to retain that part of my identity. Oh man, this is interesting. I gotta think about this some more. But anyway, thank you for allowing my little tangent.
They're always good tangents.
You flatter me. So okay. I would be remiss. We are about a couple hours in, Peachy. I'd be happy to wrap this up pretty soon if you'd like.
We can go a little longer. I let the puppies out during our break, so I'm not like sitting here worrying that they're gonna pee on my stuff.
Oh God.
No, I am deeply enjoying this.
Okay.
Everyone else was not wrong. That anyone who says, "Wow, Deeg is a fantastic interviewer," they are not wrong.
Wow, I'm my ears are absolutely burning. Okay.
They should be.
Well, let me try to regain my focus here. We were talking about. We went on a really fun tangent that ended up talking about Gemstorm. Before that, we were talking about the nature of communities and donation. And before that, we were talking about Sunrise. And we were talking about legendaries and sharing stories about legendaries. I think when I first started talking about that, I really wanted to highlight what seems like to me from the outside as someone who I wouldn't traditionally think of as a raider engaging with raid content. And I wanted to pick your brain about what you think about that, if I could.
About
Because for
like
me,
like a
I
stigma.
approached raids as somebody who I used to lead 40-man raids in World of Warcraft
Mm.
back in college. So like to me, raids were a familiar shorthand. I was ready to go. I kind of knew what to expect, and I loved it. But I also saw raids through the eyes of my wife, who she definitely tolerated a couple of attempts. Like she humored me for a couple of evenings, and she's like, "All right, yeah, you go have fun, Greg. It's all good." But you really were taken with them, and I wondered if you could describe it or maybe explain um, why my characterization about people who do and don't raid is oversimplified, or what's your understanding of that?
Well, I had never done like hardcore raid content
Uh huh.
really uh, in an MMO before. So raiding was new to me
Uh
in
huh.
Guild Wars 2. But I think it was my combination of just my love for everything Guild Wars 2, and
Hmm.
the raids were, even though it was like instanced squad content, it was still PvE content, which is my bread and butter in
Sure.
Guild Wars 2. So I was like, okay, this is new PvE content. These like I was ready to take on the challenge.
Uh huh.
And I was lucky enough to be in with a group of friends already, a guild who said that they wanted to do it. And there's like,
Hmm.
all right, all right, who wants to tackle this new content?
Let's go.
And I was like, I will learn, like I
Uh
never
huh.
paid too much attention to builds and gear and all of that kind of
Uh
stuff,
huh.
but I was willing to learn in order to do this content and experience it, because I knew, especially because I knew there was like some story involved. And me, I'm just like anything story.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need the Guild Wars 2 story. So that was another driving factor. And in the process, thankfully, I got really into like perfecting my build and
Okay.
crafting the exact armor with the exact stats I needed
Uh
and looking
huh.
up the build websites and
Uh
everything.
huh.
And
What did you play?
because Guardian, Dragon Hunter,
Dragon Hunter. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Dragon Hunter DPS, and then at some point I did Healing Druid,
Hmm.
and then I dabbled in a little bit of Condi Soul Beast and Condi Firebrand.
So you played multiple builds.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
raid lover right there.
Yeah, and because I was into it, I got really
Hmm.
into it, and I ended up in really enjoying the build and the maximizing my build,
Hmm.
because I wanted to be part of the team, because
Yeah.
if anybody doesn't do that, it makes it that much harder. And like I said, we weren't like super ultra elite raiders, so every little bit that everybody did helped,
Hmm.
and so I wanted to do my part
Hmm.
for my team.
That's
And
cool.
I had a blast with it.
That process you describe of having a blast, despite the fact that I think you said it took like multiple months to get some of these bosses down. I think if
Doom. Doom was
Doom.
the worst. Oh my god, it probably took us like we almost quit. We're like, we're never gonna get Doom. We're never
uh
gonna finish this
almost
boss. And when
broke
we
you guys, huh?
finally did it, like, but the euphoria when we finally beat him was like nothing I've ever
The nerd
experienced.
screams. I love a good
Oh
nerd
my
scream.
god. Yes.
So was that group of people who you did all those raids with more or less the same throughout?
A couple people swapped in and out.
Uh-huh.
Jebro was in there at some point.
Sure, sure.
But it was mostly the same core group of people. Bog Otter was in
Sure,
there.
sure.
Yep.
I think that a lot of people feel very envious of someone having a stable group of people to do content
Oh
like that
yeah.
with.
Oh
I think that
yeah.
it's pretty rare for most people to have something like that. And a lot of the perspectives I hear about raids in around the community are formed by people who tend to engage in more like transactional groups, like they're doing LFG to find a group.
Mhm.
I think pugging is very popular in the European scene, less popular in the North American scene,
Mhm.
where groups come together on an ad hoc basis, but they're among people who already know each other. But not that like sense of we're like the ragtag group and we're going to take it on and we're not going to be the first one to the finish line, but we're going to get there and we're going to enjoy the process. That very healthy attitude is something that I think a lot of people would like to know, would like to inhabit, but don't know how.
It's hard with people's schedules and, especially if you're a bunch of adults
Yeah.
who are out of school and have jobs and kids and everything,
Mhm.
which our group was. So it was really amazing that we all got together every week. And, there were weeks when we needed to get subs and,
Mhm.
sometimes we got a really good sub and they really
It
helped us
carried
through.
you.
And
Yeah.
sometimes, right. And sometimes it was, not so good and we struggled a little bit. But then like there were nights when our core group, all 10 of us were
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
And like those were the best nights,
Yeah.
because you have your core group and you get to know everybody's personalities and everybody's frustrations. And some people get super frustrated when we fail, and some
Uh,
people, are more positive, and there's a lot of dynamics. And when you get that many people who work very well together, it really is like you got to treasure it, because that is
mhm.
a very difficult thing to find.
Yeah. How do you like? I guess when I say some people would like to inhabit that, I'm actually talking about myself a little bit, because my biggest problem with raids in Guild Wars 2 was that I never could find that group. And I made a
Mm,
few different attempts. Honestly, in hindsight, I should have just made something myself. Probably,
mm.
I never tried to do that, but um, I always felt like I was left with a group of. This is going to sound horrible, but disposable acquaintances, where we
Sure.
all kind of used each other to get the raid done. And if we got some cool loot, that was fun. If we met our goal by getting the content done efficiently, that was fun. But the currency, that when you have those kinds of disposable feeling social interactions, the currency that people feel like they can control is, can I get this done efficiently? Can I get my clear in 2 hours or however long feels right to them? And then, in order to manage that expectation, um, a community forms that is deferring to meta builds, which are created by a handful of super dedicated mad scientists out on the fringes. God bless those people, by the way.
Ah,
And I think I feel like most people, I know I certainly felt this way when they're in that world of like, I have a group this week, but will I have a group next week? And how am I going to get my clear in? And when they're in that world, they're trying to reduce as much noise as they can to make it more likely to succeed, and that creates these weird feeling, to me, not enjoyable actual group experiences. I guess I'm not trying to make a point about this is a thing that's wrong, or this is a thing that can be fixed or should be fixed. I don't know. This is just your very potent example of having the thing that I would want for myself makes me ask, how does one get that?
mm. I stumbled into it.
Yeah.
It was luck. But at the same time, actually, the group that I raided with, I was in a guild called Maven,
Hmm.
and I had originally gotten into it because this is going way back to, um, it was a guild of bog otters
Hmm.
friends
Hmm.
who he originally started. He played other games with them. Everybody started playing Guild Wars 2.
Hmm.
Um, and so they had kind of always been a guild and had played Guild Wars 2 together. And when Bog and I started doing Guild Wars 2 content together,
Hmm.
um, he invited me into that guild of people. Actually, it's reversed. He knew of when I started creating Guild Wars 2 content. He took notice that I was a Guild Wars 2 content creator,
Uh-huh.
and had a suspicion that our well, no, I'm going to go on way too detailed of a tangent.
Ooh, okay,
So
okay,
I'm going to try to summarize this. Um,
okay.
I was watching Bog's content, And I loved his content for Guild Wars 2, so I would comment on every single video. That was how I'm supporting a YouTuber, was I would leave a comment.
Showing your
and
enthusiasm.
Showing my enthusiasm and supporting with comments, liking, subscribing, all those things. So I did all those things on every single one of his videos. And he took notice that this AuroraPeachy girl is commenting on every single one of my videos. And so he checked out my channel and saw that I was doing Guild Wars 2 content, and saw that like we you know, our personalities and our kind of like what we were going for, our styles vibed. And he was doing with his guild Maven, he was doing guild mission videos, where everyone would get together and do guild missions. This was before raiding. And he would just record everybody's just silly, everybody just all the things they BS about during guild missions. These guild missions are very easy, so you just BS, with your friends. And they're hilarious. If you've never seen them, oh my god, some of the funniest videos you will ever watch. And so he was looking for more people, more voices to add to the chaos. And so he invited me to join the group and be part of these guild mission videos. And through that, I became a member of Maven and got to know everybody. And we all continued to play Guild Wars 2. Bog and I went off to create years of content together. And
great partnership there. It's very cool.
Oh my god, fantastic! It will come back someday. So then when raids came along, who wants to raid? I'm like, me. So there's the slow roll. So I don't have any secret to finding cool people to raid with, except, I don't know.
I'm hearing a lesson. I'm hearing a takeaway from my outside perspective. Put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there. Exactly. If people don't know you exist, you won't get invited to anything because they don't know you exist. So they can't. Right?
That's right.
So if not everybody's a content creator, so engage in communities, talk about relevant topics, go into Guild Wars 2 channels, Guild Wars 2 Discords, Guild Wars 2 YouTube comments, and engage with the content, engage on Twitter, on social media, on Facebook, engage with the community, be known. There's people out there, there's community members who don't create any content. They simply comment. They're in Twitch chat, they're on social media, and they just comment. They contribute to the conversation about Guild Wars 2, and people, they're very known for that. That's literally how Bog found me, was I engaged with his content, not as a creator, as a commenter, as a fan, as a viewer. I was very heavily engaged with his content, and that's how he discovered my content cool. and just me in return. So engage with the community.
You don't know what doors will open if you put your toe in.
Really don't.
You
really don't.
It's a good reminder.
Also a good reminder though, to if you do engage and you do get involved, only do it at your own pace. Do it as is comfortable for you. Never force your way in and put yourself outside your comfort zone. And if you do engage and you're going and something doesn't feel right, this isn't the right community for you, this isn't the right conversation, please pull yourself back into your comfort zone. Keep yourself safe, keep yourself comfortable, and there's always another community or another topic to engage in that it might be a better fit for you.
What you're describing sounds very similar to my relationship with Reddit. And all the various fan subreddits on
I don't go there.
Have you ever tried?
I'm scared of Reddit. Oh yeah.
It's a scary place.
The only time I go there is when someone links me to a thread or a Google search takes. I mean, I've found so many answers on Reddit, but I go right to a page with my answer. I don't browse Reddit. I don't.
For years, I mean, I loved Guild Wars 2, and I just wanted to talk to people about it. So Reddit's one of the places with the lowest bars to entry in order to actually join conversations about the game. It doesn't feel super personal because you aren't in a chat with your name in like a member list. You're just like a faceless person commenting on a website. But man, I found that to be unfulfilling, and did not exactly what you're describing, where I overcommitted to it. Like I would find myself taking like hour and a half long lunch breaks to write these really thoughtful, feeling, detailed comments that like nobody would read, no one cared.
Hmm.
But
It meant something to you to write it, though.
it did, and it was useful for me to formalize my thoughts. But
Right.
the time when I stopped doing Reddit was when I started doing my podcast. Because for me, that was a better way of expressing my enthusiasm, of getting out the things that I cared about. It's interesting. I think that we kind of come up with different words to describe the thing. The thing that I like to say about myself. Do I like to say it? I don't know if I like to say it, but it feels the truest. Is that I need to get my demons out. Like I've got these demons inside of me, and that's the reason that I do podcasting. That's the reason that I create. I don't do it because it's like, I mean, I do try to have fun. I do enjoy the process, but if it was just enjoyment, if it was just like the high I got from like eating a bite of ice cream, I wouldn't do it. Like there's something more meaningful to it than pleasure. It's almost like creating a pearl because there's a grain of sand, and I'm just like, ugh, I got it. That thing's bothering me. I gotta deal with it.
Wow. That's so fascinating how you describe that as like this thing that's it's a demon that's bothering you and you have to get it out.
Yeah,
That's fascinating because I know the exact feeling that you feel because I feel the exact same thing, but in my mind it's like I said it's a passion. I have so much built up passion and enthusiasm for this thing that it's just I have to get it out and I need an outlet. I have to get it out in some way because I'm just all consumed with whatever my current hyperfixation is. I have to get it out through creating.
Yeah, well, but
to me it's a good thing.
Yeah,
I don't see it as a demon or a bad thing.
I don't know why I see it that way.
Interesting. It's fascinating.
I think it's because if I ignore it, I feel tortured. I think that's the thing, and that is something that I have struggled with. Is this sense of submerging my interests with distraction of some kind. So, I mean, in a way, gaming can be the great escape, and I treated it that way for many years, and my demons were tickling or were poking away the whole time, right? Like there's things that interest me that I care about. That I just, and it wasn't because I didn't want to deal with them, it's because I didn't know how. Like I haven't figured it out. Eventually, I had been in the world long enough where I tried enough stuff where I think, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. And I could put enough of the clues together to be like, maybe this. And you find that thing, and then it's like, oh yeah. Like demons, it's our day. Suit up, put on some makeup, we're going out on the town. Like that's what it feels like to me. But I guess that characterization is more about what it used to feel like, which is interesting. But I'm really glad that we
now you have found your outlet that works for you.
This one is working. Yes, actually, like on a very personal note, I've been really struggling with finding meaning in my gaming experiences recently, and I have this deep habit of I have downtime, I play a game. Like I don't even have to think about it; it's just so automatic. And if I have downtime and I don't feel like I want to play a game, I kind of don't know what to do with myself. Like I get very confused and irate and just like, But I've been having a lot of trouble finding meaning in this. It's almost like a sense of, and it's, I think, without going too deep, I will try not to go too deep on this. I've been doing taking some kind of very intro philosophy type stuff, and because I'm very interested in symbolism and meaning and stuff like that, and the kind of things that capture us from media experiences that feel like they mean something to us. Like we all have that one movie that speaks to us, right? Why? What is it about that experience? And we all understand what it's like to have a movie or game experience. It's kind of like just like a bubblegum experience. It's like a here today, gone tomorrow. Didn't stick with me. Didn't need to experience. What is the difference between those two things? What is the fundamental thing? And I've been feeling like everything is like bubblegum to me. I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but like In the newest Doom game, for the first-person shooter, um, so Doom is an old franchise, right? There's a newer version of the game that is polished to hell. It's beautiful, fast, and brutal. It's a seriously impressive game, and they have some fun with it. Those guys who make that game like to have fun, and one of those that they had fun was they put the original Doom inside the new Doom. So what you can do within the game, which has its own kind of progression, it has its own story and mission, and it has its own thing, is you actually go play the old Doom, and you can play the game within the game. And I have this sense when I sit down to play a video game that that's what I'm doing.
Wow.
And it's
Oh
kind
my
of
gosh.
it's kind of fucking me up at the moment. So getting to connect with someone like you, who you have this ability to conduct enthusiasm and to show appreciation for things that I'm right now feeling like I can't do. I didn't plan it this way, but it's actually it's a use it's a very it's I don't know, I'm getting something out of it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's wild. That is such a cool and crazy and interesting concept to think of it like that. We go through phases in our life,
Mm-hmm.
right? When I first started streaming, it was for the love of playing these games. It was because I was playing these games
Mm-hmm.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, let's record it and let's share this enthusiasm and this experience.
Yeah.
And while I never stopped enjoying video games, it got to a point, mostly whenever it got habitual, streaming 5 days a week for 6 hours a day at these
Yeah.
times of day, these games on these days, it became habit. It became, routine.
Mm-hmm.
And that contributed to, while of course I was still enjoying myself,
Mm-hmm.
I very much stopped playing games in my free time. I had no drive to play them. Sometimes on stream, I didn't have a drive to play them, and I was
Yeah.
having fun, but it wasn't the same. There
Yeah. It
was an
wasn't like sparkling. It
autonomous.
wasn't calling you.
Right, right. It wasn't even a like an escape. It wasn't a release of energy anymore. I was putting
Yeah.
more energy into it than I was
Mm.
getting out of it. And it was I'm still struggling with it. I actually took like a 5-month semi hiatus this year after
Mhm.
5 years of streaming 30 hours a week,
Mhm.
and that's just time live. Um,
Yeah.
that I broke one day earlier this year, and I said,
Mhm.
I can't do this anymore. I have to
Mhm.
stop. I have to take a break. I have to do something, but I cannot do this at this
Right.
rate anymore. And so I just kind of streamed very randomly whenever I felt like it. If I needed to take 10 days off, I took 10 days off,
Mhm.
um, and kind of rekindled my love
Okay.
of why I played games and what was, how to get more energy out of them, then put more energy into them, because that's what
Yeah.
games should be, fun.
Mhm.
And I can't, it's difficult to share my raw enthusiasm and passion when
Yeah.
I'm not feeling it, and when
Mhm.
that energy is coming out of me in the wrong way.
Mm.
And so I had to take some time to refine that, and I think I'm finally rekindling it now, and it feels good. And since I've rekindled it, I am starting to play games for fun more in my off time.
Uh-huh.
Um, ever since I kind of took that break away from it.
Mhm.
And it's just because you're not feeling that right now, you might not need to feel a certain way about games right now,
Yeah.
or you know, just go with what feels right when you play a game or create content.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it.
No, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. What you something like what you went through those months ago sounds sort of similar to what I may be feeling now. Um,
Mhm.
although
Burnout.
I mean, I do play a lot of games, but I mean, compared to what you were doing, which is streaming 30 hours a week, I mean, that level of burnout and that level of dedication to streaming, first off, is something I have a hard time imagining personally. I mean, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of output. I So that's awesome, but I can also imagine how tremendously burnt out you would have felt when you finally got to that point. Um, so it sounds like for you, was it mostly a matter of just distance, or was there something in particular that, um, with food, there are certain things they call palate cleansers. Were there any palate
Mm.
cleansers that you made use of in this process, or?
I think it was trying to uh learn how to relax, which is still
Ah,
difficult for me.
okay.
Um, it goes you kind of said this earlier too with yourself where kind of it's hard to turn my brain off. It's hard because you have all of these things bursting in you at all times and you want to
Mm,
get them out.
the
And
demons. Mhm.
yeah, I think my demon is that um you had said something about if you ignore that grain of sand, then it
Mhm.
gnaws at you,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
that's when you kind of have to do something about it.
Mhm.
I feel like I don't have the ability or the option to ignore it. It's
Okay.
there, my passions, these characters I love, these series I love, content creation, thinking about what's the next thing I can create.
Mhm.
It is extraordinarily difficult, if not sometimes impossible, for me to turn that off or ignore it.
Mhm.
And thus, it's hard to rest. It's hard to relax.
Mhm.
Like in the evening, like it's hard for me to just sit on the couch, eat some ice cream, and watch TV without thinking about anything.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
extraordinarily hard for me to do that. And thus, I don't get the chance to turn my brain off. And that causes built up stress. And
Mhm.
that's what was happening. So I think in those 5 months I took off or semi off,
Mm.
because I can't stop content creating.
Uh,
Also because I couldn't spend that time away from my community because they're
mhm.
so important to me. I every day I didn't stream, I felt horribly guilty. But that was something else that I also had to get over and had
Right.
to move past those feelings of guilt no matter how many times my community said, "No, Peachy, please rest. Please take a break. You know, we'll be here. We love you." My
Mhm.
brain just felt nothing but stabbing guilt.
Right.
Um, so I had to get past that too. That was very tough. That
Mhm.
first day after I said I'm gonna take a hiatus, that very first day when normally I would have streamed on that day, normally I would have been scheduled to stream and telling myself not to, that was the worst day
Mhm.
I have like ever experienced because I was just like the guilt was overwhelming for that entire day. And then it got better and got better.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the kind of my palate cleanser, and my husband helped me a lot with this, was kind of learning how to relax and learning and like I'm still learning how to do it.
Sure.
But I've gotten a
Sure.
lot better at it. And also focusing on other projects, which I got a million projects all the time. Um, but I was really getting into writing, um,
Oh.
fan fiction, but we don't that's a whole nother topic.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but one of the things I was struggling with while streaming 30 hours a week at a certain set time was
Mhm.
that I didn't have enough time in the mornings to write. And that was starting to get to me because that was my current outlet, my current creative
Mhm.
outlet that worked for me at the time. And when I was extraordinarily limited because of streaming in in being able to express through that outlet, it just wore on me and wore on me and wore on me. And I
Mhm.
think have when now that I'm back, I've struck a healthy balance where now I start 2 hours later, I start streaming at noon so that I have a like 3 hours to write in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's enough to give me that creative outlet that I need right
Yeah.
now
Mhm.
and stream and have that. So it's about finding the balance that works for you at this time in your life.
Yeah. Boy, that sounds right. That sounds like you've rung the gong of truth right there.
Mm. I hope it rings true for someone, if someone takes, I always say when I go on these little peachy rants, as my
Mhm.
community calls them, all I hope is that, maybe if a couple words rang true to someone and made them
Right.
go, oh, I didn't see it from that perspective, then I'm happy,
Yeah.
because that's happened so many times in my life. It was actually another streamer, um, uh, Liger. I am so blanking on his Twitch name. Albino Liger.
Okay.
Took an 8-month hiatus from streaming because the same thing, burnout.
Yeah.
He needed time away, and he had just come back to streaming on the same day that my burnout hit super hard.
Okay.
And talking to him about it on his stream, his first stream back, he kind of gave some insight. He went on his own little rant about how he needed his break. He got burnt out, and whether he knew it or not, I actually told him later that he was my inspiration for taking my hiatus,
Yeah.
because a couple of the words that he said rang true in my brain and sparked me to take care of myself. So you never know what just a couple words, a couple sentiments are going to really ring true to someone in their life.
Yeah. I think that is really true. I think you're definitely passing on the torch of those insights to at least to me personally.
Thank you. I
So,
hope so.
well, I
That's
really
an honor.
appreciate that you shared that because, yeah, I was just literally hanging out with my buddy, my MMO buddy, who I play most MMOs with last night, and I said, let's play something. And he said, okay, what? And I was just like, I was kind of annoyed with him because I wanted him to pick, So I just like, I don't know, like and I just went on this like hour-long rant with him, be like, nope, games are meaningless. They're stupid. What the hell's the point of video games? And he said, okay. And then and there he is in the chat right now. Right now. That's funny. Yeah. So that's and it's not so much that I need to, validate or fix the fact that I'm not playing a game or not enjoying games. Like, it's okay. It's not really about that for me, because games are kind of like a shorthand for me for like relaxing, a shorthand for me for rest, relaxation, R&R. And it's kind of like it's kind of like going to bed one night and then you can't sleep in your bed anymore because for some reason it's uncomfortable. You can't. There's something wrong with it, and the inability to sleep. It sucks for a night. After a week, it is agony, and that's the kind of feeling that I'm sort of getting about like every single night for a couple weeks, just sitting down and being like, wow, a couple hours I spent playing games didn't give me anything back. And so I will need to meditate on that, but thank you for sharing that.
Don't lament the loss of that outlet, because that just means it's not right for you right now.
Yeah.
And you love it so much that I'm sure it'll come back. But it'll come back when it's ready. Don't try and force a method of relaxation, because then it's not relaxation. If you're trying to force it. And trust me, I understand video games relax me. Why are they not relaxing me? And that's okay. You just need a little bit of a break away from that particular method.
Yeah. I guess
and that's okay.
I appreciate that. I think there's actually this part of it that actually, I'm going to admit, scares me. And this is like not a rational thing. This is like a totally like lizard brain thing where I have this worry that maybe I'm somehow moving past gaming, and that is freaking me out, because that's always been like, to me, what feels like a foundational part of my identity. And what you just laid out, that is most likely what will happen. Most likely I'll just I'll have a palate cleanser and I'll be like, oh, that looks cool, and big surprise, it'll be a video game. But I think that, oh man,
It's hard when something is so integrated into your life
Yeah.
and then you lose it. Like, I go through that with I get hyper fixated on characters
Hmm.
and like I get so fixated on certain characters. They're all I can think about and they're all I want to create for. And same thing, the thought of them not being the center of my universe anymore terrifies me.
Huh.
Because then you'll feel a loss, right? Like what will I
Yeah.
have, right?
Yeah. It's
I
part of your identity.
literally
Yeah.
right. I literally it's so a part of my identity. I have made it so a part of my identity
Hmm.
that I will go as far as people recommending like an anime to me. I will have a fear of watching that anime and falling so in love with it that I forget my current hyperfixation. And right now
Mm.
I can't imagine my world without my current hyperfixation. So
Hmm.
the thought of a new one taking over is scary
Hmm.
to my current brain. Like I won't want to create for them anymore. But that's okay. And I tell myself it's okay because if that happens,
Hmm.
if that happens, you will fall just in love with the new one. And it doesn't mean the old one went anywhere.
Hmm.
It just means that you'll feel that way about something new, and that's okay. When I was a teenager, and this is why I'm number one. I list Fangirl
Hmm.
number one.
Hmm.
So when I was a teenager, in Sailor Moon, Sailor Neptune and Uranus were
Hmm.
my hyperfixation. They were my everything that I wanted to create for. They were the center of my universe. Those two characters and their relationship, absolute center of my universe. And I couldn't imagine my life without them.
Hmm.
They're still here. I still love them, but they're not the center of my universe anymore.
Hmm.
Now I have a couple from Kingdom Hearts that is the center of my universe.
Yeah.
And it's shifted, but I'm a different person than I was as a teenager.
Hmm.
And they fulfill a different need in my brain. And that's okay. I'm not as a person now, I'm not lamenting the loss of them. I'm celebrating them.
Hmm.
So and so I have to tell myself that if my life, if my interests, if my hyperfixations move in a different direction and I embrace it, it'll be what's right for me at the time. So it's okay to explore. It's okay to let this go for a little while because I will have embraced this new thing and let myself enjoy it.
It is actually unreal how much I feel like I needed to hear that.
I'm so
Sorry,
glad.
I just like literally like feel like I feel silly admitting it, but I feel like something just like unknotted in my chest when you said that.
I'm so glad.
Oh, damn. Okay. All right.
There you go, chat. Peachy rants. This is why they like the
Powerful.
Peachy rants.
Powerful Peachy grants. I'm convinced.
This is why I was fangirl number one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm your biggest fan now. After that. Yeah, like it is just so hard. Like it is so
Breathe.
there's so much advice out there. It is
Oh,
so hard to find
so
advice that's
much.
useful to you, to us as an individually, right?
That's the key.
I,
Finding what's right for you. For the you that's existing right now.
right. Not the you that I loved being at that one party 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Not the
Mm-hmm.
you that I was in that amazing stream that I did. But the you that me I am today. That's a
Yeah.
true truth. Capital T truth right there. Okay. Well, I would love to continue on, Peachy. Do you want to keep going? Or are you feeling good about
We
this?
can go for a little bit longer.
I don't want to push
A little
you.
bit longer.
So you just give me the
No.
signals, okay?
Okay. Yeah, let's
Okay.
go for a little bit longer. It's 11. So
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
getting tired, but this is a joy.
You doing okay, chat? Having fun?
What about you, Chet? I love seeing all of the familiar faces. You guys bring me so much joy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's think of a topic pivot. I think we were talking about Guild Wars. So maybe this is sort of related. I watched your recent Guild Gab that you did with
Thank you.
Alex and Corvus and Inks, those lovely gentlemen, about the End of Dragons announcement, all the hype
Mm,
there, which hype that I completely share. And
yes.
um, I didn't realize it at the time that it had been, I think what was said was a couple of years since the last time a Guild Gab happened. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. End of 2019, with the beginning of the Icebrood saga was the
Yeah.
last one that we did.
I'm sort of inferring that maybe the reason for that 2-year gap might have something to do with what we were just talking about and not having excitement.
Mm.
I'll let you explain why, but
Yeah. Yeah, that was it, basically. We all just kind of became a little bit dispassionate with Guild Wars 2. It became a matter of, because we used to do a show once a week, which
mhm.
is crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome.
At the height of all of our Guild Wars 2 excitement and
Mhm,
everything, and
mhm,
new content always coming out, it's always something to talk about, and we were all
mhm.
super passionate and keeping up on the game. So we did a show every week because there was always something to talk about. We could easily fill a 2-hour show. But it just got to a point where content was, getting further apart. The community as a whole kind of wasn't, was falling out of it a little bit, and us too. We were doing a show every week because that was the routine.
Right.
Um, but we got to the point where we would do a show, but we weren't quite sure what to talk about
Mhm,
anymore,
mhm,
because the enthusiasm wasn't quite there.
mhm,
And even when the new Icebrood Saga episodes came out, the prologue was amazing, and we were
mhm.
super excited
That was
about
very
that.
fun. Mhm,
Yeah, the prologue was incredible. But then episode 1 came out, and it was just it was all right, you
mhm.
know. And we were already in the mode of being a little bit dispassionate about it, and so we just kind of said, you know instead of struggling to talk about something, let's just take a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
None of us are super passionate about it right now, and so let's just take a break. And then, um, yeah, just I hate to blame it on the Icebrood saga, but I can't deny that it was we didn't really want to talk about it.
Mhm.
We're we just weren't excited about it. Um, I still did my reaction videos, and everything, and and
Yeah.
and then of course it didn't help that COVID hit, and the episodes were coming out without voice acting and
Right.
everything. And bless
Yeah.
them for still getting the episodes out,
Mhm,
despite that.
mhm.
The devs did an amazing job. But
Especially a
so it was
shame
just,
about the COVID and the voice acting because those
yeah.
episodes were bangers. Like
Mhm.
Drizzlewood
Mhm.
Coast, really fun map. The Char
Yeah.
story. I don't know. I thought that was really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. They were cool, and it was good content. We just weren't passionate about it, which is what Guild Gab is we're passionate about the story and the game
Mm,
and what's going on. So when
mhm.
we had lost that passion, we just kind of fell out of it. But then with End of Dragons, a lot
Yeah.
of people in the community, a lot of people, us included, our passion has come back for it.
The tone has
Um,
really changed.
it really has. It
Mhm,
really has, and thank goodness for it, because
mhm.
I do not think Guild Wars 2 was in a very good place.
Yeah.
But now it is, at the kind of marketing that they're doing now, teasing the elite specs again, which is something that everybody praised them for, especially content creators praise
Yes.
them for, during the Heart of Thorns era. And so that now that they're doing that again, they're doing a lot of things right
Mhm,
again, and rekindling the community and rekindling that passion. And so I really hope that they take take good notes that this works. Doing it this way works.
mhm.
Um So yeah, we're not going to do a Guild Gab a week, but absolutely the guys are like, yeah, let's do it more frequently as End of Dragons information comes out and everything.
Hmm.
Whenever we feel like we got a show, we'll do a show.
Sounds very similar to what you were saying before about come back to it when you're excited to do it. That kind of
Yeah,
whole approach of,
yeah.
if it's not in you, take some time from it and come back to it when it
Mhm.
feels like it's right. And that's exactly what you've done.
Exactly, exactly. It's a
Hmm.
running theme here. You guys notice?
That's
If you guys are forcing something, take a break, take a step back. It's okay.
yeah. You know, side note, one of my favorite ways to manage that feeling when I'm playing Guild Wars 2 on a daily basis is I use the Arc DPS add-on to turn off the little daily quest part of the UI,
Oh, yeah.
because if I see that up there, I want to clear it. I want to clear that UI, that those quests, get them done. Whether I end
Mhm.
spending all my time just doing dailies, and I'm like, what? It's not like
Mm.
I didn't like decide how I'm gonna play. Like I kind of feel like it was decided for me. So
Gotcha, yeah.
that's one of my personal reminders. Oh yeah, turn that off. But um, that's not what I want to focus on really. I did want to just like say a word for people who are watching this and aren't so familiar with the Guild Wars scene. Like 2019, um, like so rough chronology very quickly is we were building into a very climactic ending with the season 4 Living World, which had launched
Mm.
immediately in like incredible pacing right from the Path of Fire expansion that dropped at the end of
Yeah.
2017.
Wow.
Season 4, the ending was amazing. Some of the most incredible like marriages of art and design and story and
Yeah.
everything
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that the game has ever had. Um, but then, as those things were dropping, all of a sudden, Arena announced large layoffs, the shuttering of unannounced projects, and there's a lot of confusion about what the future was going to be like. And then the brilliant conclusion of season 4, which I actually just rewatched your reaction to this morning to
Oh,
remind myself.
really?
Yeah. Oh, and I love watching people's reactions to that because I just that ending. Okay, this could be
Mm.
a total tangent, but I'm going to make the point first, then I'll come back to it, which is that brilliant ending ended without a hook for the future, which every single
Mm.
time of Liberal season had ended before, it ended with a hook for the future.
Yeah.
And the layoffs and the no hook for the future and the not knowing what's coming next, and it's like, well, if we're doing an expansion every 2 years, we should be like hearing pretty soon, right? What's going on? And then the Icebridge Saga announcement came, and a lot of people who really wanted to be excited about it were very excited about the Icebridge Saga. We really heard ArenaNet say we want to bring an expansion like feature set into this episodic way of telling the Guild Wars 2 story. And then, as you say, as the content actually began to came out, we were like, this doesn't really feel like the Guild Wars 2 that we want to be seeing. Not exactly. This is not what gets us excited, but gets us up out of our seats.
Right.
And that whole period, that I think I would say that period ended the day that ArenaNet made the studio announcement about the leadership changes.
Mhm.
I mean, the End of Dragons tease was great, absolutely, and that happened at the end of last year, so the end of 2020.
Yeah.
But the real tone changer was them roaring out the gates and saying, we're bringing back Colin Johansson, we're bringing back Josh Davis, and
Yes.
probably some other folks too who are flying under the radar. But
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
and we're going to change our communication policy because it's worth the risk for you guys to hear from us,
Right.
which we all felt ArenaNet clam up in the years after Heart
Yeah.
of Thorns,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we were fine for a little while the content was coming, but then when
Right.
we're not hearing the signal back and the content isn't really coming, it's a weird spot for the community to be in, and for creators too, who are used to being enthusiastic about that.
Yeah.
So that leadership announcement and all the details of it, like actual news about alliances, so many things I could point out there that are signs of a vibrant future for people who want to love Guild Wars 2. And and since then, it seems as though the studio's been putting their money where their mouth is. They're actually giving us stuff. We aren't seeing the Path of Fire marketing treatment where it's like, wait. Okay, here it is. Now go play it.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually getting the ability for the community to be
the teases. We're getting the teases. It's beautiful.
Whew, I got too excited. It gives the community a chance to be a part of it. It feels like we're
yes.
It's silly, but it feels like we're helping make End of Dragons when they do it this way. We're not really helping them make it, but we get to be part of it. And beyond the expedient of giving content creators something to riff off of, which it absolutely does, but beyond that, it's like we all get the sense. And that sense is so potent that not only has it suffused the existing community, but it's starting to get out. It's starting to... Other people are starting to be like, well, wait a second. Other MMOs suck. Maybe Guild Wars 2. Like, there's all this positive buzz around it. I should check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what franchise, like, inflection points are all about. It's when you marry compelling content with changes in the outside narrative. And I really believe that the lean-in community who show up for conversations like the ones we're having and all the great content other people make, and they go to the Reddit or whatever their way of consuming the news around the experiences, have such power in setting the tone. And although ArenaNet leads that process, they're not completely in control of it. Once it gets out, the community does its thing, and the community is doing its thing right now, and it's beautiful to see.
Absolutely. It's an MMO. It's founded on community.
Yeah.
Right? And Guild Wars 2 has always, ArenaNet has always excelled at connecting with their community from day one. They're supporting content creators. They're telling content creators, use our music in your content, use our assets in your content. It's totally fine. We're not going to like take down your, give you copyright strikes and DMCAs. They're creating a partner program. I have never interacted with so many devs on a game as I do on Twitter.
Yeah.
And ArenaNet. Like ArenaNet devs they are communicating, and I know they're on Reddit, and I know, they're on the forums on the Guild Wars 2 website. They're communicating with their community, and that gives you a real human connection to the people who are creating this game world that you're in, and that makes you want to keep coming back, because you don't want to just see what the new story is. I want to see what Tom Abernathy has written for these characters, right? Because I talk to him on Twitter. He retweets my tweets. So I know his name. I know that when I play the story, not only is it going to be a really cool story, but I have talked to the person behind it, one of the many people behind this story. So it gives me a further connection. Colin Johansson coming back is just so massive, because when the game launched, he was the face of Guild Wars 2.
Oh yeah,
was Colin Johansson, and it was a sad day when they lost him. And it was like losing part of Tyria when Colin left, and having met him personally on several occasions and talked to him, it hit me very deeply. I was like, and he's been with the game and even Guild Wars 1 for so long that
a long timer.
He's synonymous with Guild Wars to me. So to have him leave was a loss from this game franchise that I love. And not to put any pressure on the man or anything, Jesus, but you know what I mean?
Colin.
So when he came back, I can't tell you, I was in a hotel room reading on my phone the blog post where they announced when he returned, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, Colin's back. I started freaking out. My husband's like, what's wrong? What happened? Are you okay? I was like, Colin's back! I was like, it felt like right there was like revitalization of Guild Wars 2. Yeah. I was like, Tyria's whole again! And we have seen and it's not just him, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of factors, a lot of people, you don't get me wrong. But like I said, he was the face. He's always been the face of Guild Wars 2. And so like this entire shift in their marketing, in their staff, in the way that they're communicating with the fans, the way that they're dealing with this content and slowly rolling it out and teasing us. Like I woke up this morning and they had announced the Guardian Elite spec and I was just like, I forgot. Oh my, I have to leave in 5 minutes. Oh my, like I'm freaking out. Like, when am I going to do this? I did like a 3-minute reaction right before this podcast for the Willbender.
Willbender.
And, because I was just like, someone might mention it on the podcast. I need to record my reaction. So I did like a super quick the fastest reaction ever. But you know, this is the excitement that when you do your marketing right, it's all down the marketing. Like, and when you do it right and you communicate with your fans and you put them at the forefront, this is the excitement that happens for your product that we are paying money for. So you're doing it right. Keep doing this. Whatever you did with Path of Fire and the Iceberg Saga, don't. Because it didn't work. And 10 years into your game, you're going to kill it. So keep doing it now. What you're doing right now, because it's working. Okay, I'm done.
Peachy rants. Can't beat him. Totally agreed. Totally agreed. I'd love to see it. Yeah, no, I agree with you. No more of that old like Path of Fire, Iceberg Saga era communication stuff allowed. That's not allowed anymore. Like we can't have that. No more being quiet.
No.
Yeah.
We're excited about Guild Wars 2 again.
Yeah.
We're excited about being excited.
Absolutely. Well, like we all have this such a like automatic sense of understanding if the thing seems like it has a future, and we don't need to think about this rationally. We don't need to do the math. We all like make these calculations automatically. It's like, and right now the math is adding up, and yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be a shill or anything, but I've always loved this franchise, and for me, I think the prevailing sentiment is I feel happy for Tyria. Like, not necessarily for the people playing the game, not necessarily for the people making the game, and not necessarily for like people making money off the game, investors, anything like that, publisher. It's just like this piece of art seems like it's going to get the attention it deserves. That's how I kind of feel about it. And to the extent that that piece of art forms part of my identity, which I think it does, if it's personally gratifying, but it feels good, man. And you know, I'm excited about Colin too, but another dimension of it that I'm very excited about is Grouch, Josh Davis, a guy with a huge reputation for community collaboration, for putting in the extra work and the sweat to make sure that the community is heard and fed, and to have someone with his level of attention and fluency with what the community needs and cares about in the role of a head of live ops, the person who's, you know, day in, day out making sure the live game is getting what it needs. Like that's like bread meeting butter. It's beautiful. Oh, yeah. It's beautiful. And I'm really excited to see what he can do in that role.
Oh yeah.
And everyone else, like I mean, a game like Guild Wars isn't made by two folks sitting behind a camera and looking pretty, like Colin and Josh, and of course Ruby and all the other folks, Andrew Gray. But the people who are put forth to symbolize the franchise become important. They become those symbols, and that's why we focus on them. And I think we all understand that when we're talking about what we're excited to see from Colin, we're excited to see from Grouch, like we're talking about all the people who are behind that as well, and the work that those guys are representing when they speak.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. There's so many different aspects of what goes into an individual player's experience.
hmm
And, for people like us, it just the community and that, the devs and what they bring to the experience
hmm
of being in Tyria is very, very ingrained in our enjoyment of that fictional world.
hmm
And it hurts when you take that away from us.
yeah,
It
yeah,
hurts that world, even though the world hasn't changed, but our experience, even outside the game, has changed. And that's the world we're living in. Because, when you were a kid and you went and bought Super Mario World, you weren't talking to the devs, you weren't seeing them tweet on Twitter. You might see a commercial on TV, but you see it once you buy the game and then you're
yeah,
playing the game, right? And you might see the same commercial again, but you're not connecting with those real human people behind it, and you're not getting hyped every day with a community. You buy the game and you go and
yeah,
you play it in your
yeah.
living room. um Times are changed now,
hmm
and there are some game companies whose social media managers are, people love interacting with their accounts,
hmm
because their social media manager is on point and making jokes and replying to people, and it keeps people engaged, and it puts a very a humanization to even a company's name or a game's
hmm
name. Square Enix excels at this. The Square Enix account isn't just the name of a company. An account. It's someone that makes me laugh. It's someone that
hmm
makes me,
hmm
and Guild Wars 2 is the same way. Guild Wars 2 is doing excellent with their social media. And, so I feel like I'm interacting with a very real person, with someone like me who
hmm
loves Tyria. And, and that's just and there's a giant part of the player base who has never doesn't even isn't even on Twitter,
Right,
so
right.
there's different things. And so it's good to have someone like Grouch who is in tune with, okay, what do the players need in the
hmm
game, all the different all the myriad of experiences that the
hmm
players are going through. And just to have this intelligent team of people who are in tuned with the players. That was one of my favorite things about talking in person to Colin Johansson,
hmm
is that the man lives and breathes Guild Wars 2. It
Uh-huh.
was, and just Guild Wars in general. It was all he ever wanted to talk about. You would talk to other devs, and of course you'd talk about Guild Wars, but
Right.
you'd also talk about what other games are you playing and what do you
Sure.
think, because everyone's gamers and everyone's
Yeah.
nerds, and what are you doing, and let's talk about this, or where did you go, or what did you do. Colin lives and breathes Guild Wars. He's like, what's your favorite map? What's your if you could have one change to a legendary, if you could have one change in the game, what would it be? And it's just like he lights up like a child, like on Christmas. He just wants to talk about Guild Wars. And you're like, me too. I just want to talk about Guild Wars. So it's a joy, and that just means that he's so, people like that, and him and Grouch, they're so in tune with the community because they themselves are the community. They're not just someone at don't get me wrong,
hmm
every dev lives and breathes Guild Wars 2, or they wouldn't work there. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, in my personal experience speaking to devs, I've never seen someone more passionate about
Yeah.
and who is just like, I feel like a gamer like me.
Yeah.
So they're a Tyrian like me, so
Yeah.
it's such
Yeah.
a joy to see that.
Yeah, and that's a quality that, I mean, I don't feel like you can put that in a job description. That kind of a quality.
No,
Um,
no,
that's something that comes from the individual, and
passionate.
that's what makes it so special, because there are a lot of people who I'm sure could do the job that Colin has done and is doing. Sorry, not a lot of people. I'm sure there are other people, right? But the fact that he's doing it and he happens to be a major Guild Wars nerd, is it feels really good. I mean, there is like this like cynical kind of argument of like, oh, like the whole idea of humanizing a corporation and how corporations aren't really your
Mhm.
friend, and I
Sure.
think that's fair and true. I don't think it's I don't think it's true though to suggest that corporations don't do things the role that the ArenaNet and the folks working there are serving is to engage in an essentially human enterprise. Like they're serving people. Um, my MMO gaming buddy who I referenced earlier, who I was complaining about games to the other night. One of the things that we've talked about recently is just some economic topics, and he calling himself a pragmatist. He will kind of boil things down to dollars and cents a lot of the time, and I think that's a useful perspective sometimes. But like for like me, like personality wise, I tend to find that kind of annoying. But it's like, yeah, but like dollars and cents stand for something. Like they're a value of something. They're referential. They aren't the thing itself. And so I guess what I want to try to do is include the counter argument to the idea of I love Colin, therefore I love ArenaNet. The counter argument is, oh, it's just a corporation using you by putting the right person up there to say the right things. I think that when that undertaking of trying to bring out the thing that we as humans care about by a corporation is done in poor taste, that's when it ends up being kind of manipulative and bad feeling. But when it's done effectively, when it's a good product, that's just I don't know. I'm gonna have to listen back to this and see if I agree with myself later. But
times I do that.
I really agree with you, but I find myself wanting to justify it in some ways.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I think that the there is just such a attraction to cynicism in the way that gaming and especially game makers are discussed these days. And it's a nuanced and terribly difficult thing to contend with, to understand that people making things want them to be good, people selling things want them to be good, people playing things want them to be good. Everyone wants them to be good. And when it goes wrong, it's not usually because there's someone, doing this in the background. It's just because someone didn't do it well. Or maybe there's a problem with the system, or maybe there's just something going on. So I read somewhere, and I can't remember where, a characterization of this phenomenon where we see something occur, a behavior that seems negative to us, and our inclination is to assume a malicious intent behind the behavior. And the suggestion that I've heard in reaction to that is to not attribute to malice what could be attributed to ignorance. And that's kind of like a maxim to kind of consider when we're seeing things that we don't quite understand. It's like, not, oh, this dev is lazy, this dev is malicious, this dev hates the players. Something you hear people say, right?
Oh, yeah.
How about a human explanation? How about... Anyway, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and this is really getting a little navel-gazy, so I think I'll pull right out of this tangent.
It's true. Humans, we see the negative a lot, but
yeah,
that's why I try to put out positivity and goodness and show how you can see the good. You can find the joy.
I love it.
Anything.
I love it.
Right?
I too am here to justify the good and to retort the cynical.
That's right.
I think this is probably a good point, Peachy, for us to call it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. My old eyes are getting tired from the lights.
Perfect.
So.
Yeah, no, there's definitely like a certain sort of fatigue that I scan for in myself. But I mean,
it's good. That's
Peachy,
good. Practice healthy geeking.
Healthy geeking. I love it. This has been incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit and talk with me, share your life with us, and answer my silly questions. I've really enjoyed this, and I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to get to know you.
Oh my gosh, same. Thank you so much. And they were not silly at all. They were informative and thoughtful, and honestly, some of the most thoughtful questions I've ever been asked on an interview.
Okay. Well, thank you. tell people where they can find your stuff and maybe something new you're working on.
Oh, you can find all the stuff. AuroraPeachy, one word, everywhere. I'm AuroraPeachy, just about everywhere. I create content on YouTube. I'm mostly on Twitch though. I stream 4 days a week right now. We're still getting back into the schedule after the hiatus, but right now it's Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then Friday nights and Saturdays. Every Tuesday is Guild Wars 2 Tuesday on Twitch. So noon Eastern time, come on by. I'll be playing some Guild Wars 2. Always talking about nerdy things, and my motto is love what you love. If it's not hurting you or anyone else and it brings you joy, do it, and don't let anybody tell you that you can't. You love what you love, and use it to inspire you and make you a better person, make new friends. Use it for everything good in your life. Ride that joy.
Love it. Love it. I'm Deeg. I don't have the same name anywhere because apparently I don't have my shit together.
It's hard. It's hard to get. Oh my god.
I was just talking to my wife about this. She does marketing and content
Nice.
marketing, and she's going stuff. She's like, "You don't use the same name for stuff. What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, you got a point. Kind of got a point. Maybe I'll fix that at some point in the future."
The brand consistency is very nice.
Yeah. The
Yes.
tricky thing is you unless you have a cool name like AuroraPeachy, it's hard to get the name you want everywhere sometimes.
Absolutely. No, I was, thank you, RJ. I was Aurora_Peachy on Twitch for 5 years. And it plagued me because I couldn't get AuroraPeachy. And it plagued me for 5 years to say, you can find me, I'm AuroraPeachy everywhere. Except Twitch, I'm Aurora_Peachy. I said that for 5 years religiously, and it just plagued me and plagued me and plagued me until Twitch changed their rules and I was able to get AuroraPeachy, and that was a glorious day, and we celebrate its anniversary every year. So now I can say I'm AuroraPeachy everywhere. Yes.
Underscore day.
No underscore. We killed the underscore that day.
That is fantastic. Well, so yeah, my shtick is deep thoughts and gaming, or at least I try to. And I just love talking to people. I believe that the endeavor of human meaning and connection is something that's meant to be solved collaboratively. And that's why I talk to people who I can learn from, like you.
That's beautiful.
I'll be back here on Tuesday next week. That is the 17th of August, to learn from Jebro, another lovely longtime Guild Wars content creator, esports dude, lots of other stuff. Jebro and I have way too much stuff to talk about.
You guys are gonna have a blast.
Yeah, I think he's a little annoyed because we plan to meet the same day that now the Elite Spec Beta is happening the same night.
Yeah.
But I told him we could pitch it as people can listen to us while they're doing it. I think maybe he's gonna come around. We'll see if I have to reschedule.
There you go.
But yeah, that's great. Also, I'm on YouTube and Twitter, and I have a Patreon if you care to support me in that way, like we talked about earlier. But till then, thank you again, AuroraPeachy. Thank you, everyone who hung out on the chat, and thank you, everyone who's watching this after the fact, for sticking around. This has been really fun. I love you all. Practice healthy geeking. Is that what you said?
Healthy geeking.
Practice healthy geeking. We'll sign off on that.